As someone working in the jewelry industry, Shun Shuwei could tell at a glance that those 2 pink diamond hair clips were worth at least 7 figures. She dearly loved her children, yet she had never bought a hairpin worth 7 figures. Mrs. Zhong, if you see these 2 elderly people again next time, please keep their contact information. I'll return these items to them. Mrs. Zhong quickly nodded. All right, I'll keep an eye out. Chapter 34 The Little One's Birthday Party. Shun Ruoshi suddenly seemed to remember something. She slid off the sofa and rummaged through her school bag for a while. Mom, this Friday is Shu Ran's birthday. She invited us to her birthday party, Shun Ruoshi said, toddling over on her short legs and handing the invitation to Shun Shuwei. Shun Shuwei opened the invitation and glanced at it. The Shu family had invited Chen Chen, 1111, and their parents to attend the birthday party. Chen Chen, 1111, would you like to attend her birthday party? Shun Shuwei asked gently. Yes, 1111 wants to go. Shun Ruoshi nodded vigorously. What about Chen Chen? Shun Shuwei then turned to her son, waiting for his answer. Shun Ruochen also nodded. Shu Ran gets along well with little sister, so let's go to the party. All right. Then I'll take you guys on Friday evening, Shun Shuwei continued, but you'll need to think about what birthday present to prepare for Shu Ran. Presents. Shun Ruoshi scratched her head blankly, looking completely at a loss. You could choose to buy something at the mall. Mom can find time to take you shopping, or you could make a gift yourselves, like drawing a picture or DIY toys. Noticing the children's confusion, Shun Shuwei offered some general suggestions. I'll go to the mall to buy it. Shun Ruochen had no interest in crafts, nor in calligraphy and painting. Can I paint a picture to give her? Shun Ruoshi rested her chin on her hand, hesitating as she said. Would she dislike it if my painting isn't good enough? Of course she wouldn't dislike it. A painting you made yourself, no matter how it turns out, carries your heartfelt intentions. Shun Shuwei quickly encouraged 1111. Besides, Mom thinks 1111's paintings are very beautiful. Okay. Shun Ruoshi nodded obediently and said, then I'll prepare a painting to give her. Shun Shuwei chatted with the 2 children for a while about kindergarten matters, then took them upstairs to begin their daily piano and dance practice. A suitable teacher hasn't been found yet, so for now, Shun Shuwei is teaching them personally. She started learning dance at the age of 3 and piano at 4, and over the past 20+ years, she has never stopped practicing. Teaching 2 3-and-a-half-year-old children is more than sufficient for her. Friday evening, at the Shu family villa, Shun Shuwei left work early, picked up Chen Chen and 1111 from kindergarten, went home to change clothes, and then took them to the Shu residence. Seeing the long line of cars in the parking lot, she was somewhat surprised. So many people had come to attend the birthday party for the younger members of the Shu family. The Shu family was also in business, primarily operating luxury car 4S dealerships, representing top-tier high-end automotive brands in the affluent circles of Haicheng. Most people have had some dealings with the Shu family, and there's always a bit of familiarity when they meet. As soon as the Shun family's driver parked the car, a servant approached, slightly bowing, and said to Shun Shuwei, "Ms. Shun, welcome to the Shu residence." "Hello." Shun Shuwei nodded to the servant, then opened the rear door, unbuckled the seatbelt, and let Chen Chen and 1111 get out of the car. The Shu family servant guided the 3 of them all the way into the banquet hall. 1111, Chen Chen, you're here Tilda, the birthday girl today. Little Shu Ran was dressed in a moon-white organza puff dress with her long hair curled and a small diamond tiara on her head. Shun Ruoshi took a few steps forward, approached Shu Ran, and said in a sweet voice, "Ran Ran, happy birthday. You look so beautiful today, just like a little princess." 1111. You look very pretty today too, Shu Ran replied with a smile, holding Shun Ruoshi's hand, then greeted Shun Shuwei. "Hello, Aunt Shun, Ran Ran, happy birthday." Shun Shuwei extended the gift box in her hand. "This is the present 1111 and Chen Chen prepared for you." The gift was somewhat heavy, so Shun Shuwei handed it to the servant beside her. "Thank you all." Shu Ran smiled with her eyes curving into crescents. "Auntie Shun, may I take 1111 and Chen Chen upstairs to play? The other classmates are all upstairs too." "Sure, go ahead." Shun Shuwei added a reminder. Be careful, it's crowded here, don't run around, got it? The three children responded in unison before heading toward the stairs together. Shen Shui picked up a glass of champagne and strolled alone through the banquet hall, encountering many familiar faces. They exchanged greetings and chatted briefly. While wandering around, Shen Shui caught sight of Lin Yunyu's figure. Lin Yunyu was wearing a white evening gown with a slightly short skirt and a low-cut neckline, drawing the attention of every man in the room. Lin Yunyu politely declined the advances of the wealthy young men around her, her eyes constantly scanning the surroundings, but she couldn't spot Ji Yuzhua anywhere. A birthday party for some brat was naturally beneath Lin Yunyu's notice, but she didn't know whether Ji Yuzhua would attend, and in the end, clinging to the hope of a chance encounter, she came anyway. After sweeping her gaze around the room, Lin Yunyu also caught sight of Shen Shui. Shen Shui frowned slightly. Swirling the wine glass in her hand, the look Lin Yunyu was giving her at that moment could hardly be described as friendly, although she didn't know exactly what was going on between Ji Yuzhua and Lin Yunyu. But now that Shen Shui was divorced from Ji Yuzhua, she didn't want to get involved anymore. Shen Shui averted her gaze and walked away in another direction. Ji Yuzhua still came, dressed in an exquisite dark suit, his posture upright as he strode in with his head held high. Although he was a bit late, the head of the Shu family warmly welcomed him. After exchanging pleasantries with various business leaders, Ji Yuzhua excused himself to the restroom and finally made his way to Shen Shui's side. What a coincidence. Shui, did you come alone? Ji Yuzhua's eyes held a hidden smile. Originally, he had no intention of attending, but upon hearing that Shen Shui was present, he immediately grabbed his car keys and drove over. No, Shen Shui shook her head. Shu Ran is Chen Chen and 1111's classmate. They wanted to come celebrate her birthday, so I brought them along. The little ones are here too. Where are they now? Ji Yuzhua glanced around but didn't spot Chen Chen and 1111. Shen Shui smiled and replied, Shu Ran took them upstairs to play. There's a whole group of kids up there. They must be having a blast by now. Just thinking about the two little ones, Ji Yuzhua couldn't help but show a doting smile. Yeah, a bunch of mischievous kids together. They're definitely having a great time. Shen Shui nodded gently in agreement. Many people in Haicheng know that Ji Yuzhua and Shen Shui are former spouses. However, no one would have expected these two to still get along so harmoniously after their divorce. Shen Shui appeared with two children today, sparking much discussion, with many speculating whether the children were Ji Yuzhua's. Honestly, Shen Shui and President Ji Yu standing together, handsome man and beautiful woman, it's quite a sight for sore eyes. Yeah, I always thought they were a perfect match. It's such a shame they got divorced. Lin Yunyu overheard the conversation among the people nearby, her heart filled with jealousy and resentment. The Shen family was just a fallen house, and Shen Shui was utterly unworthy of Ji Yuzhua. With a snap, the pearl bracelet was forcibly broken by Lin Yunyu. The round pearls scattered all over the floor, and the women standing beside Lin Yunyu quickly expressed their concern. Miss Lin, are you all right? How did the bracelet suddenly break? Lin Yunyu replied calmly, I'm fine. Perhaps the quality of this bracelet wasn't good, and it just broke suddenly. Oh dear, which store did you buy it from? I'd like to avoid that place. I can't quite remember clearly either. Lin Yunyu revealed a meaningful smile. I think it was bought at Heir Jewelry. Chapter 35, Emergency Incident. On the second floor of the Shu family villa, over a dozen children sat on the soft carpet, forming a circle. The pile of gifts placed in the center were the birthday presents these children had brought for Shu Ran. Originally, Shu Ran had planned to wait until after the birthday party to open these gifts. A few children were very curious and started clamoring to see the gifts Shu Ran had received. Of course, they might also have wanted to witness firsthand what expression Shu Ran would have when opening their own gifts. Would Shu Ran like the gift they had given? Seeing everyone's curiosity, Shu Ran had someone bring up the gifts and started unwrapping them together with everyone. Ran, can you open mine first? A little girl couldn't hold back her excitement. Holding a square box and placing it in front of Shu Ran. Sure, I'll open yours first. I wonder what gift Xiao Qing has prepared for me. I'm so looking forward to it. Shu Ran smiled and nodded. then tore open the wrapping paper and took the gift out of the box. Inside is a crystal ball, turn the knob at the bottom, and a little girl spins, dancing in the center. If you flip the crystal ball upside down and then right it again, snowflakes will flutter around the little girl. Wow, this crystal ball is really beautiful. All the children present were very supportive, voicing their admiration. Shu Ran smiled happily and said, "Thank you, Xiaoqing, I really like it, and I'll place it on my bookshelf." Xiaoqing felt a bit shy from the praise and softly replied, "I'm glad you like it." Next, Shu Ran unwrapped a few more gifts, all of which were dolls, though fortunately, they were of different styles. Seeing Shu Ran pick up her gift, Shun Ruoshi grew a little nervous and quietly held her brother's hand. The two siblings were transfer students and not very familiar with the other classmates. Shun Ruoshi and Shu Ran were desk mates, so they had the closest relationship. Shun Ruoshi cared a lot about Shu Ran's reaction and wondered if Shu Ran would like the painting she had given her. Shu Ran took out the framed painting, and after seeing the artwork, she turned her head in surprise to look at Shun Ruoshi. 1111. Did you paint this? It's so well done. You're amazing. Shun Ruoshi nodded. Yes, I drew it. I've only been learning for half a year, so I hope you don't mind it being rough. Wow, 1111, I had no idea your drawings were this beautiful. 1111 is so talented, only half a year of learning, and you're already this good. 1111, you're definitely going to be a great artist in the future. The other children also praised sincerely and genuinely. Shun Ruoshi painted an oil painting depicting the white peacock raised by her great-grandfather. The white peacock stood on the rockery, holding its head high with pride, its long tail trailing behind, exuding a hazy and dreamlike beauty. In the blank space above the painting, Shun Ruoshi also added wisteria flowers, making the entire scene appear more warm and harmonious, showcasing the peaceful coexistence of nature and living creatures. These children present, although only 3 or 4 years old, have already begun learning to draw and possess basic aesthetic appreciation abilities. Shun Ruoshi's painting is truly excellent, vividly capturing the spirit of the white peacock with meticulous attention to the layers and details of the feathers. Classmates who previously paid little attention to Shun Ruoshi couldn't help but want to engage with her more, eager to learn how to create such beautiful artwork. After showcasing Shun Ruoshi's gift, Shu Ran had the servants carefully store the painting away before continuing to unwrap the gifts from others. The gifts prepared by others showed that they had also put thought and care into their choices. Finally, it was time to unpack the gift from Shun Ruochen. It was a Fujifilm camera. Shu Ran adored it. After unwrapping it, she gathered everyone to take a group photo together. Now that all the gifts have been unwrapped, one of the kids suggested, "How about we play some games?" "Sure, sounds good." Shu Ran thought for a moment and asked, "How about we play hide and seek?" No one had any objections, and Shun Ruoshi and Shun Ruochen also agreed. "Then let's draw lots to decide who will be it in the first round." Shu Ran prepared paper slips for everyone to draw. Xiaoqing drew the lucky lot. She became the seeker. Everyone else was a hider. Xiaoqing was blindfolded. She reminded them, "Only 2 minutes. Hide quickly. Ha ha ha. Run fast. I don't want to be found by Xiaoqing." There were over 20 rooms on the second floor, and the children quickly scattered to find hiding spots. 1111, let's hide together, Shun Ruochen said to his younger sister. Shun Ruoshi firmly refused. No way, if we hide together, we'll both get caught at once. Alright, then be careful. Don't climb to any high places, Shun Ruochen reminded her a few times before reluctantly going off alone to find a place to hide. Shun Ruoshi walked along the corridor until she reached the door at the end. She opened it and glanced inside. The others weren't there. She quickly stepped in, opened the wardrobe door, and hid inside. A short while later, Shun Ruoshi heard someone open the door and come in. At first, she thought it was Xiaoqing who had found her. The wardrobe door wasn't opened, and Shun Ruoshi only heard a strange sound. Then, the sound of footsteps seemed to fade away, hiding without making a sound. Shun Ruoshi wondered. Since Xiaoqing hadn't discovered her, could she ultimately become the winner? Thinking this, Shun Ruoshi felt overwhelmingly happy. After a long while, Shun Ruoshi heard what sounded like commotion outside. She guessed that everyone else must have already been found. Shunruoshi reached out and pushed against the wardrobe door, preparing to step out and reveal herself. But for some reason, the wardrobe door wouldn't budge no matter how hard Shunruoshi pushed. She tried again with more force. Yet it still wouldn't open. It was as if there was resistance, impossible to push open. The wardrobe was pitch black, and Shunruoshi couldn't push the door open, growing increasingly panicked and scared until she started crying. Woo-woo, Mom, brother. By this time, all the other children had already been found and gathered together. Shunruochen and Shu Ran were the first to notice that Shunruoshi wasn't here. Have you seen my sister? Have you seen 1111? No one else had seen where Shunruoshi was hiding, and could only shake their heads in bewilderment. Let's go find 1111 together. Hearing Shu Ran say this, everyone split up to search for Shunruoshi. Another 10 minutes passed, and still there was no sign of Shunruoshi. Because the room where Shunruoshi was hiding had its door locked from the inside, and without a key, there was simply no way to enter. The children didn't pay it any mind, simply assuming that room had always been locked. Not finding his sister on the second floor, Shunruochen went downstairs to see if she had gone to the first floor looking for their mother. Shun Shuei was talking to Jiu Ziue when she saw Shunruochen approaching alone and asked, Chen Chen, where's your sister? Why isn't she with you? Hearing his mother's question, Shunruochen immediately realized his sister hadn't come downstairs at all. Mom, 1111 is missing. Shunruochen's voice sounded extremely anxious. Chapter 36, 1111 is missing. Wasn't 1111 playing upstairs with you? How could she be missing? Shun Shuei was frantic with worry and quickly asked, Chen Chen, what happened? Tell Mom quickly. Don't panic yet. The Shu family's security isn't useless. 1111 should be fine. Jiu Ziue gently patted her shoulder and said softly, we were playing hide-and-seek upstairs, but even when the game ended, my little sister still hadn't appeared. Later, we all went to look for her, but couldn't find her. Shunruochen had never experienced anything like this before. He was so anxious he was on the verge of tears, his voice gradually choking up. I'll go take a look. Shun Shuei quickly went upstairs, with Jiu Ziue holding Shunruochen's hand and following behind her. Auntie Shun, I'm sorry. Shu Ran lowered her head and stood in front of Shunruoshi to apologize. Ran, this has nothing to do with you, Shunruoshi said softly to Shu Ran. Could you call the butler over? Of course. I'll have him come up right now. Shu Ran immediately used the intercom to summon the butler to the second floor. Soon, the uniformed butler appeared before everyone. You're the Shu family's butler, correct? Here's what happened. Next, Shun Shuei told the butler what had happened and asked him to mobilize the servants to search together. Sure, no problem. The butler immediately arranged for many servants to come up and search for Shunruoshi together. Shun Shuei and Jiu Ziue also searched everywhere, opening all the cabinet doors and checking every nook and cranny where someone could hide. Has this door always been locked? Shun Shuei twisted the doorknob and found the door was locked from the inside. The butler replied, it wasn't locked before. This is a guest room, and if no one is staying, it's usually not locked. I can feel that 1111 might be inside. Shun Shuei shouted toward the door. 1111, Shunruoshi, inside the wardrobe. Heard her mother's voice. She opened her mouth, wanting to call out loudly, but no sound came out. She had shouted and cried for so long that her voice was hoarse and she could no longer make a sound. In the darkness, Shunruoshi silently shed tears, growing increasingly afraid. Would she never see her mother and brother again? The butler quickly instructed the servants to fetch the keys. Waves of heart-wrenching pain struck, leaving Shun Shuei pale-faced. 1111. Shunruochen walked over to his mother and patted the door. Mom, I can feel it too. My sister might be inside. It's said that twins share a psychic connection. Jiu Ziue was also deeply worried about Shunruoshi. Without waiting for the key to arrive, he forcefully broke the door open. The loud noise of the door being smashed startled Shunruoshi, but it also allowed her to hear her mother's voice more clearly. Bang bang bang. Shunruoshi frantically pounded on the wardrobe. There's a sound coming from this wardrobe. 1111 must definitely be inside. Shun Shuei's tone was unwavering. Jiu Ziue grabbed the bedside lamp and, without hesitation, used its metal base to smash the wardrobe door handle. After 2 or 3 strikes, the screws on the handle came loose, and Jiuzue pulled the wardrobe door open. Sure enough, Shunruoshi was inside the wardrobe, a small figure, curled up in the corner, looking pitiful, seeing Shunruoshi in tears. Both Shun Shuei and Jiuzue felt heartbroken. 11:11. Mommy is here. Shun Shuei held Shunruoshi in her arms, gently patting her back. Don't be afraid, Mommy is here. How could anyone bear to hurt such a well-behaved and adorable child like 11:11, who would play such a cruel prank? After receiving the butler's message, Shu Rant's parents, the current head of the household and his wife, hurried upstairs and entered the room. Shuei, we're truly sorry, something like this happened in our home. Zhong Xiaohui said apologetically to Shun Shuei. With their own daughter still trembling in fear, Shun Shuei couldn't bring herself to say, "It's all right, Mr. Shu, Mrs. Shu, since this incident occurred in your home, we must thoroughly investigate who is behind it." Hearing Jiuzu's words, Shu Hua was somewhat surprised. He had never been one to meddle in others' affairs before. Then it occurred to Shu Hua that Shun Shuei was Jiuzu's ex-wife, and perhaps these 2 children. Rest assured, President Jiu, I will definitely get to the bottom of this. Shu Hua immediately instructed the butler to check the surveillance footage. The butler bowed slightly with an awkward expression and said, "The hallway camera on the 2nd floor happened to malfunction just 2 days ago." Shu Hua frowned. "Then why didn't you have someone come to fix it, or just replace it with a new one?" The butler explained, "The birthday party is being held on the 1st floor. So I thought it wouldn't really matter and arranged for someone to install new surveillance cameras tomorrow. Your Shu family is really too casual, leaving broken surveillance cameras unrepaired for 3 days. Shun Shuei was quite unwilling at this moment. Was it really going to end like this? Shun Ruoshi was curled up in her mother's arms, still sobbing, while Shun Ruochen comforted her quietly by her side. Jiuzuo asked, "Is the surveillance on the 1st floor operational?" "Yes." "Then pull up the footage from the stairwell to see who went up to the 2nd floor." The butler didn't immediately respond to Jiuzuo. Instead, glancing toward Shu Hua's direction, Shu Hua waved his hand and said, "Go check the surveillance footage to see who went upstairs. Quietly invite all those people over. This room is a bit small." Zhong Xiaohui suggested everyone move to the living room to wait more comfortably. The group walked out of the room. Shun Shuei, holding Shun Ruoshi in her arms, trailed behind at the end. After sitting down in the living room on the 2nd floor, the children all gathered around, concerned about Shun Ruoshi's condition. 11:11 is fine, she might just be a little scared, Shun Shuei said, then reached for a few tissues to wipe the tears from Shun Ruoshi's face. "Don't be scared, 11:11, 11:11. I have a lollipop here for you. 11:11, here's a teddy bear for you." The children were all very kind, comforting Shun Ruoshi and even bringing her snacks and toys to cheer her up. Amidst everyone's warm care, Shun Ruoshi's fearful emotions seemed to ease a little. Shun Shuei watched the group of children thoughtfully. None of them disliked 11:11, and they didn't seem like the type to play mean pranks, so it's highly likely that an adult did it, for some reason. Shun Shuei's mind flashed with Lin Yunua's face. Could she be the one who locked 11:11 in the closet? After about half an hour, the butler returned from reviewing the surveillance footage, followed by 3 women dressed in evening gowns. Lin Yunyu was unmistakably among the 3. "Mr. Shu, I've finished reviewing the surveillance." After the banquet started, only these 3 ladies went to the 2nd floor. Shu Hua nodded and asked, "No omissions, right?" The butler replied, "I had several people watching together. There couldn't be a mistake." Jiuzu's eyes turned icy as he swept a glance over the 3 of them. "Tell me, what exactly did you do upstairs?" Chapter 37, Jiuzu stays overnight at the Yu residence. Facing Jiuzu's chilling gaze, the 3 exchanged bewildered looks. "Just what had happened, Mr. Jiu? We really don't know anything. What do you want us to say?" One of the women asked in confusion. "You are all esteemed guests of our Shu family, and we shouldn't have invited you here so abruptly." Shu Hua paused, then said with a serious expression, "However, something unfortunate happened on the 2nd floor, so, I'd like to ask, what did you all do when you went upstairs?" my child was playing on the second floor, so I went up to check on her. I was worried the air conditioning might be too cold, so I brought her a light jacket." The woman pointed to one of the little girls as she spoke. "Look, that's our Luna over there. My son was also playing on the second floor. When I went upstairs, the children were playing hide and seek. I didn't disturb them and came back downstairs soon." The other two had already finished speaking. Lin Yunyu said unhurriedly, "I accidentally got my dress dirty, so I just went upstairs to change. After changing, I came back down." The butler opened the surveillance video on the tablet, looked carefully, and nodded, saying, "Miss Lin's dress indeed had red wine stains on it." Lin Yunyu did go upstairs to change because her dress was dirty. Coincidentally, as she came out after changing clothes, she caught a glimpse of Shun Ruoshi hiding in a room next to the storage room. Lin Yunyu noticed several locks of different sizes in the storage room, and a playful idea arose in her mind. After leaving the storage room, Lin Yunyu saw that the second-floor surveillance camera had been removed. Without hesitation, she decisively locked the little girl in the pitch-dark wardrobe. With no surveillance footage to capture her actions, Lin Yunyu now felt confident. She only needed to pretend nothing had happened, and the blame wouldn't fall on her. The moment Lin Yunyu appeared, Shun Shuwei was convinced in her heart that it was Lin Yunyu who had done it. Shu Hua looked at Shun Shuwei and said, "Director Shun, what do you think about this? The surveillance didn't capture it, so there's no clear evidence to accuse anyone. Forget it. Since it wasn't caught on camera who did it, I can't just suspect anyone." Shun Shuwei sighed. "Our 1111 was frightened. I'll take the kids home first." Zhong Xiaohui stood up and apologized again. "I'm sorry, Shuwei. Let me walk you downstairs. I'll accompany you back." Jiyu Ziyue also rose to his feet, holding Shun Ruochen's hand as they descended the stairs. The two women, who had been completely bewildered throughout, quickly found their own children to ask what exactly had just happened. A black stretch limousine appeared outside the Shu family villa, drawing curious glances from many guests who wondered which VIP it belonged to. "Shuwei, get in the car," Jiyu Ziyue said as he first carried Shun Ruochen into the vehicle. "We drove here. The car was parked just." Shun Shuwei glanced toward the parking spot, but the car was gone. Jiyu Ziyue looked at Shun Shuwei, who was still standing in place, and said softly, "I had the driver leave first, left with no choice." Shun Shuwei took Shun Ruoshi and got into the car. As the car drove away, everyone saw it. Shun Shuwei and her two children had boarded Jiyu Ziyue's car. Jiyu Ziyue wasn't one for flamboyance, but he wanted everyone to know just how much Shun Shuwei meant to him. Even if he and Shun Shuwei were to divorce, she would still be under his protection. Shun Ruoshi must have cried herself out, for she leaned against her mother in the car, drowsy and on the verge of sleep. Sleep now, mommy's here." Shun Shuwei gently patted 1111's back, soothing her with a soft voice. Shun Ruochen also rubbed his eyes, seeming a bit sleepy. Jiyu Ziyue picked up Shun Ruochen, letting Chen Chen rest his head on his shoulder to sleep. The car was quiet, yet filled with an undeniable warmth and tranquility. With Jiyu Ziyue by her side, Shun Shuwei's anxious heart settled, waves of warmth seeping into her core. Returning to the Yu residence, old Master Yu had already retired to his room to rest. It was just as well he didn't know what had happened at the Shu family, otherwise he might have been too angry to sleep. When Aunt Zhong saw Jiyu Ziyue holding the child, she reached out to take the baby from his arms. "No need, I'll carry him up." Switching back and forth might wake Shun Ruochen. Jiyu Ziyue then carried Shun Ruochen and went upstairs with Shun Shuwei, placing both children on the bed in the nursery. After stepping out of the nursery, Shun Shuwei gently closed the door and softly said to Jiyu Ziyue, "Mr. Jiyu, would you like to sit downstairs for a while?" Naturally, Jiyu Ziyue wouldn't refuse the chance to be alone with her. Sure. After sitting down on the living room sofa, the butler had someone prepare a pot of floral tea for them. Shun Shuwei picked up the teacup, took a sip of the floral tea, and slowly said, "President Jiyu, I really must thank you today. If you truly want to thank me, then go back to how you used to address me." Jiyu Ziyue's gentle gaze rested on Shun Shuwei as he smiled and said, "Ever since you returned to the country, you've been calling me President Jiyu. No matter what, we were once husband and wife. living under the same roof. Don't you think the way you address me now is too distant? Shui Shun blinked her eyes, a smile curling at the corners of her lips. All right, let's go back to the old way of addressing each other then. The form of address was just a minor matter. When Shui Shun first returned to the country, she thought it would be better to keep some distance from Ziyue Jiyu, so she addressed him as President Jiyu. Now, whether in private or work-related matters, Ziyue Jiyu frequently appears by her side. Oh, by the way, is your shoulder okay? Shui suddenly recalled the moment he forcefully pushed the door open. It hurts a bit, but it should be fine. Should we call the family doctor to take a look? Jiyu Ziyue shook his head and said, It's so late already, no need to bother them. I'll see a doctor tomorrow. Shun Shui bit her lip lightly and said softly, There's bound to be some bruising. How about I apply some ointment to help disperse the bruise for you? All right then, Jiyu Ziyue replied casually, the amusement in his eyes carefully concealed. Receiving an affirmative response, Shun Shui brought the first aid kit and sat beside Jiyu Ziyue. Ziyue, could you please take off your clothes? As soon as these words left her lips, Shun Shui instantly felt shy, her cheeks tinged with a faint blush. Jiyu Ziyue took off his suit jacket and then began unbuttoning his shirt. His movements were slow, first unbuttoning the top button, revealing his sexy Adam's apple, followed by the second. Then the third. Sensing the man's lingering gaze fixed on her face, Shun Shui inexplicably felt her mouth go dry. She picked up her teacup and gulped down a cup of floral tea. Can't you move any faster? Shun Shui couldn't help but glare at him. Shui, I'm injured, and you're telling me to hurry up, Jiyu Ziyue said pitifully. Shun Shui sighed lightly and said helplessly, Let me do it. She quickly unbuttoned his shirt and pulled down the right collar, revealing his bruised shoulder, and the taut lines of his muscles. She used to be married to Jiyu Ziyue, but apart from that one night, she had rarely seen the figure beneath his clothes. After years apart, his physique was still well maintained. Noticing Shun Shui lost in thought for a moment, Jiyu Ziyue curled the corner of his lips, secretly smiling. Shun Shui calmly finished applying medicine to Jiyu Ziyue and put the first aid kit back in its place. It's already so late now. Shun Shui glanced at the clock, hinting that it was time for Jiyu Ziyue to go home. I don't want to worry my parents. Can I stay here tonight? Jiyu Ziyue asked in a low voice. All right, I'll have the housekeeper prepare a guest room for you. Jiyu Ziyue got injured because of 11:11. Remembering how he had recklessly broken through the door without hesitation, Shun Shui found herself unable to refuse. Chapter 38. Waking up in the middle of the night. That night, Shun Shui slept restlessly, faintly hearing 11:11's cries. In her dream, she saw 11:11's figure. 11:11 was curled up in the corner of the wardrobe, her eyes filled with fear, tears streaming down as she kept crying out for her mom. Mom! With a sudden shudder, Shun Shui woke up instantly. Still seeming to hear the cries in her ears, Shun Shui immediately realized it really was 11:11 crying. Without even grabbing a coat, Shun Shui, clad only in a camisole nightgown, slipped on her slippers and hurried to the children's room. Shun Ruoshi had been crying for so long that she woke up Shun Ruochen. He was now sitting by the bed, comforting his little sister. 11:11, your brother is here with you. Don't cry anymore. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Shun Ruochen looked toward the entrance. Seeing Shun Shui enter, his eyes instantly lit up, and he called out, Mom, little sister is crying. Chen, you lie down and keep sleeping. I'll comfort your sister. Shun Ruoshi was still wailing loudly. Probably having woken up from a nightmare, Shun Shui walked to the bedside, reached out to hold Shun Ruoshi in her arms, and whispered gently, Mommy's here. 11:11, don't be afraid, be good, go back to sleep. Previously, Shun Ruoshi rarely woke up crying like this. It might be because she was locked in the closet, scared in the dark, and got frightened. 11:11 nestled in her mother's arms, her cries gradually subsiding. Her eyelids were too heavy to lift, and she soon fell back asleep. Shun Shui, fearing her daughter might have another nightmare, simply stayed in bed to sleep with both children. The next morning, Shun Shui woke up right on time. A glance at the clock confirmed it was indeed 6:30. once her body adjusted to the biological clock, she naturally woke up at this time every day. The two children were still asleep. Shun Shui tiptoed out of bed and quietly returned to her room to change into workout clothes and sneakers. "Good morning, Uncle Cai." Shun Shui went downstairs and greeted the gardener who was watering the flowers. "Good morning, Miss." Uncle Cai, the gardener, didn't pause his work as he spoke, continuing to water the flowering trees and lawn. After completing some simple warm-up exercises, Shun Shui began her morning jog. Running several laps around the front and back gardens, Jiu Ziua held a glass of water, standing on the balcony to enjoy the view, and at the same time, he saw Shun Shui running towards him from a distance. "Shui, good morning Tilda." "Good morning Tilda." Shun Shui slowed down slightly, glancing up at Jiu Ziua. "I'll come down for breakfast in a bit." Jiu Ziua nodded. "All right, keep running then." Shun Shui waved at him and ran forward. Jiu Ziua watched Shun Shui's figure, his deep eyes turbulent, his fingers unconsciously rubbing the rim of the cup. Waking up in the morning to see the woman he liked was truly a wonderful experience. But soon, intense regret surged in his heart once again. If he hadn't divorced her back then, every day could have been like today, exchanging good mornings and having breakfast together. Jiu Ziua let out a deep sigh, finished the water in his glass, and turned to go back to his room. After her run, Shun Shui followed her usual routine of returning to her room to shower and change. It was Saturday, with no need to go to work, so she decided to skip makeup and went downstairs with a bare face. Aunt Zhong had already taken the two children to the dining room. When they saw Shun Shui, Chen Chen and 1111 both called out "Mom" simultaneously. "Good morning, Mommy's two little treasures Tilda." Shun Shui reached out and hugged the two children. Jiu Ziua looked at the mother and her two children before him, a doting smile appearing at the corners of his mouth. After Shun Shui took her seat, she realized old Master Yu hadn't arrived at the dining room for breakfast yet. "Uncle Yao, has Grandpa not gotten up yet?" Shun Shui asked, looking at the butler standing nearby. The butler replied with a smile. "He's in the garden trimming the roses and will be here shortly." Not long after he spoke, old man Yu walked in with an armful of red roses. He placed them on the table and instructed the maid to arrange them in a vase. "Grandpa, what's gotten you in such high spirits today that you went to cut the flowers yourself? These roses are blooming beautifully," old Master Yu said with a meaningful smile. "As the old saying goes, gather ye rosebuds while ye may. Old time is still a-flying." Shun Shui was completely baffled. What exactly was Grandpa trying to convey with his elaborate wording? Jiu Ziua, however, understood old Master Yu's implication and greeted with a smile. "Good morning, Grandpa." Old Master Yu snorted. Was it you who brought them back last night?" "Yes," Jiu Ziua responded gently and politely. Old Master Yu didn't say much. He unfolded the newspaper, reading it while having breakfast. After breakfast, Shun Shui took the two children to the study. She ground the ink and had them sit there practicing calligraphy for a while. Shun Shui asked Aunt Zhong to stay in the study to watch over the children while she went downstairs alone. Old Master Yu and Jiu Ziua were sitting drinking tea when they saw Shun Shui coming downstairs, and both looked up at her. Shun Shui sat down on the sofa, and Old Man Yu asked with a serious expression, "What happened last night at the Shu family's place?" Jiu Ziua exchanged a glance with Shun Shui, signaling that he hadn't said anything. After a moment of contemplation, Shun Shui finally recounted the events of the previous night truthfully. Even if she didn't say anything to Jiu Ziua, Grandpa Yu might still hear about this from elsewhere. Thinking this way, Shun Shui felt there was no need to hide it from the old man. Upon hearing that his little darling had been bullied, Grandpa Yu's face turned red with anger. With a heartbroken expression, he said, "How could they be so cruel? How could they lay a hand on a 3-year-old child?" Shun Shui quickly said, "Grandpa, don't be angry. Anger is bad for your health. I'll make sure to protect Chen Chen and 1111 from now on. So this matter is just going to be dropped, no investigation into who did it." Old Master Yu frowned in dissatisfaction. The surveillance only showed 3 women going upstairs. 2 of them were parents of 1111's classmates, and the other one was Lin Yunyu. Without concrete evidence, Shun Shui could only feel helpless. She had no choice but to keep her suspicions to herself and stay vigilant in the future. The Lin family has a powerful background, they won't be easy to deal with. Hearing Lin Yunua's name, Old Master Yu's brows furrowed even deeper as he turned to look at Jiyu Ziyue. Needless to say, Lin Yunyu was definitely here for Jiyu Ziyue. How heartless this woman is, she wouldn't even spare a 3-year-old child. Lin Yunyu can't be touched for now, give me a little more time. Jiyu Ziyue's words were essentially a promise. He would definitely settle this score with Lin Yunyu in the future. Chapter 39. The first family photo of 4, thinking about how Shun Ruoshi was locked in the wardrobe last night and frightened. Shun Shui decided to take her 2 children to the children's park for some fun, hoping to help them relax and quickly forget about last night's incident. After hearing about this, Jiyu Ziyue actually refused to leave the Yu family. Insisting on going with the 3 of them, Shun Shui didn't bother with him. If Jiyu Ziyue wanted to go, then so be it. If he found taking care of the kids annoying, maybe he wouldn't come to the Yu family again in the future. Half an hour later, after the 2 children finished their calligraphy practice, Shun Shui had Aunt Zhong take them downstairs. Mom, Uncle Jiyu Tilda, Shun Ruoshi and Shun Ruochen obediently called out. Jiyu Ziyue casually asked with concern, after practicing calligraphy. Are your hands tired? Shun Ruoshi replied sweetly, not tired, I'm used to it already. 11:11, Chen, go change your shoes quickly, Mommy will take you to the children's park to play, Shunsha said to the 2 children with a smile. Yay, Mommy is the best. The 2 little ones walked to the entrance hallway, sat on small stools, and obediently put on their shoes. After the children got into the car, Shun Shui and Jiyu Ziyue each took one side. Responsible for fastening the seatbelts for the kids, Uncle Jiyu, are you coming to play with us too? Shun Ruochen looked up at Jiyu Ziyue and asked curiously. Yes, would you like to go out with Uncle Jiyu? Jiyu Ziyue gently patted Shun Ruochen's little head, offering a warm smile. Yes. Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi answered almost in unison. Shun Shui stood by the car door, watching the interaction between the father and his 2 children, feeling that the scene before her was heartwarming. Buckle up, we're about to set off. Jiyu Ziyue closed the car door and said to Shun Shui, Shui, let me drive. Sure. Shun Shui tossed the keys to him, then pulled open the car door and settled into the passenger seat. Jiyu Ziyue was happy to play chauffeur, and Shun Shui naturally enjoyed the freedom. At the children's park, Shun Ruoshi and Shun Ruochen were overjoyed, trying out every amusement facility in the park. Occasionally, they would even drag Jiyu Ziyue along. Making him join in their fun, Shun Shui noticed that Jiyu Ziyue didn't show any signs of impatience. The 4 of them walked past the entrance of a giant doll world, where a staff member dressed in a doll costume asked, Hey Tilda, would you like to take a photo? No need, we brought our own camera. Shun Shui refused without hesitation. Since your family of 4 is out together, why not take a group photo? When Jiyu Ziyue heard the phrase family of 4, his eyes instantly lit up. He crouched down and asked the 2 little ones, Do you want to take photos here? There's a big dinosaur here. Shun Ruoshi immediately nodded and said, Mom, I want to take photos here. Alright, let's take some photos then. Shun Shui looked at the staff and asked, How much does it cost to take photos? Please take a few for us. The staff member smiled and replied, 1 photo costs 50 yuan, and you'll get it in about 10 minutes. Alright, Shun Shui nodded. Noticing balloons being sold nearby, she walked over and bought 2. Shun Shui handed the balloons to Shun Ruoshi and Shun Ruochen, then led them to the photo area. She and Jiyu Ziyue stood at the back while the 2 children held the balloons in front. After taking a few standard photos, the photographer asked, Would you like to try a different pose? Maybe holding the child. Jiyu Ziyue glanced at Shun Shui out of the corner of his eye. Shun Shui bent down to pick up Shun Ruoshi, and Jiyu Ziyue immediately lifted Shun Ruochen. Perfect. The photographer quickly pressed the shutter, capturing several more shots of them. After taking the photos, the photographer couldn't help but exclaim, Your family of 4 looks truly happy. Exactly. A staff member nearby nodded in agreement. Such a stunningly good-looking family. The envy of everyone. Thank you. Shunsha asked with a smile. How much in total? Just took 10 photos, that'll be 500 yuan in total. Shun Shuwei took out her phone, ready to scan the code for payment. When Jiyu Ziyue had already paid first, there were slides and seesaws nearby, so Shun Shuwei took the children to play for a while. After getting the photos, the four of them sat on a bench looking at the pictures. Wow, Uncle Jiyu looks so tall, Shun Ruoshi exclaimed in amazement. Yes, Uncle Jiyu is tall and handsome, Shun Ruochen said. Can I grow that tall too? Shun Shuwei smiled and replied, of course you can. You might even grow taller than Uncle Jiyu. Jiyu Ziyue stood at an impressive height of 1.9 meters, with a tall and upright posture. His figure was even better than a model's, making any outfit look good on him. The two children were Jiyu Ziyue and Shun Shuwei's kids, inheriting excellent genes. Whether in height or appearance, they stood out remarkably among their peers. Shuwei, can I have 2 of the photos? Sure, pick any 2 you like. Shun Shuwei agreed readily. Since Jiyu Ziyue had paid for them and was also in the pictures, it was only fair for him to take 2. This was the first family photo of the 4 of them. Holding the photo, Jiyu Ziyue felt both happy and excited. He had already made up his mind in an instant. He would place one in the office and another in his room. This way, he could see Shun Shuwei and the child whenever he wanted. After viewing and carefully putting away the photos, Shun Shuwei and Jiyu Ziyue took the children to the car and headed to a star-rated hotel for a buffet dinner. The restaurant had a kids' play area. Once the 2 children finished eating, they went straight to the play area to build with blocks. Shun Shuwei picked up the water glass, took a sip of tea to moisten her throat, and glanced at Jiyu Ziyue before saying, this place is quite close to your Jiyu family home. You don't need to drive us back, I can just drive myself. Jiyu Ziyue knew he couldn't rush things, or it might backfire, so he nodded and said, all right, then drive carefully. Are you full? Do you want to order anything else? No need, Jiyu Ziyue shook his head. Then I'll have someone come over to settle the bill. Shun Shuwei was about to raise her hand to call the waiter when she heard Jiyu Ziyue say, I've already paid the bill. She paused for a moment, then uttered a thank you, as they took the 2 little ones downstairs and said goodbye to Jiyu Ziyue. Shun Ruoshi looked visibly reluctant to part. Uncle Jiyu, you should come visit 1111 when you're free. Definitely. Jiyu Ziyue smiled and said, I'll come see you whenever I have time. Bye-bye, Uncle Jiyu tilde. Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi waved goodbye to Jiyu Ziyue. After returning home, the 2 children happily shared with Grandpa Yu the fun games they played and the delicious food they ate in the morning. They even showed Grandpa Yu the photos. Great, great. Let your mother take you out to play more often in the future, Grandpa Yu said with a loving smile, looking at his 2 well-behaved and adorable great-grandchildren, and Uncle Jiyu. Shun Ruoshi added, Shun Shuwei, her face darkened with lines, was her precious daughter a sucker for good looks? She used to often talk about Uncle Sheng, but now that Jiyu Ziyue was around, the name Uncle Jiyu was the one Shun Ruoshi mentioned most frequently. Chen, 1111, alright now. It's time for you to go upstairs and take your nap. Shun Shuwei had Nanny Zhong take them upstairs for their afternoon rest. After the 2 little ones went upstairs, Old Man Yu pointed at the photo and said with a smile, Shuwei, the family photo of 4 looks quite happy. Have you ever considered remarrying? The children might need a father. Grandpa's question left Shun Shuwei silent for a long time, her emotions somewhat complicated, like today. When she went out with Jiyu Ziyue and their children, watching Jiyu Ziyue interact with the 2 kids, the scene was overwhelmingly heartwarming. For a brief moment, she wavered, but she knew very well that having a good time together while going out was one thing, and becoming a family again was entirely another. Chapter 40, Malicious Slander. Monday morning, at the conference room of Harui Jewelry, Shun Shuwei sat at the center of the conference table. Looking at the performance report projected on the screen, the further she read, the tighter her brows furrowed. Vice President Xiao, wasn't yesterday and the day before the weekend. Why was the store's business so poor? Normally, shopping malls experience higher foot traffic and better performance on weekends compared to weekdays. However, over the past weekend, sales actually declined instead of increasing. President Shen, take a look at this. Qiao Yang opened the Zyro Hongshu app and placed his phone in front of Shun Shuwei. There's a post on Zyro Hongshu discussing the quality issues of Heir jewelry. The incident started when someone posted that the pearl bracelet from Heir jewelry suddenly broke during normal wear, causing her embarrassment at an important event. The quality is absolutely terrible. This post has received tens of thousands of likes and saves, likely seen by hundreds of thousands of people, making it highly influential. No wonder the performance suddenly dropped this weekend. Shun Shuwei returned the phone to Qiao Yang, looked up at the executives, and asked solemnly, "Has anything like this happened before? In the areas you oversee, have there been any customer complaints about the quality of the bracelets?" "In the area I'm responsible for, we haven't received any complaints of this nature. Neither have we in my area. I don't have any here either." Everyone said that the stores in their respective areas had not received any feedback or complaints of this nature. Shun Shuwei nodded thoughtfully. "It seems someone is trying to smear us." Qiao Yang said, "President Shun, this matter needs to be resolved as soon as possible, otherwise, it could damage the brand's reputation and the group company's stock price." Shun Shuwei glanced around and said, "Do any of you have ideas? Feel free to share your thoughts, Director Shun. The source of this issue is this post. In my opinion, we should find the poster, offer them some money, and have them delete the post." Shun Shuwei immediately rejected the idea. "No, if we bribe them with money, wouldn't that make us look guilty? Doing so would only hand an even bigger leverage to others." Then, several more executives put forward their own suggestions. Shun Shuwei nodded, but still felt the solution wasn't quite perfect. At this moment, Qiao Yang voiced his suggestion. "I think we could organize a live streaming event." Millimeter, go on. Qiao Yang's idea actually aligned perfectly with Shun Shuwei's thoughts. "During the live broadcast event, we'll showcase the quality of the bracelet on the spot. This way, we should be able to salvage our reputation." Vice President Qiao's suggestion is excellent. Shun Shuwei nodded and continued, "But do we have a suitable candidate for the live broadcast? Preferably someone with a bit of fame to bring better promotional results." Qiao Yang replied, "Not at the moment. Our brand's official account has never done live broadcasts before, so we don't have a dedicated host either." Shun Shuwei clasped her hands together on the table and said, "After the meeting, everyone should look around. If you find any suitable candidates, feel free to send them to me for review." One of the department managers muttered, at this point, "I'm afraid well-known figures won't be willing to come out and do live streams for us. This is indeed a realistic problem. If it were before, getting a celebrity to appear in the brand's livestream would have been very easy to arrange. But now, with Heir Jewelry's reputation not being great, many people are probably keeping their distance. Submit the list to me, and I'll handle the rest with Vice President Qiao." Hearing Shun Shuwei say this, the others visibly relaxed. After the meeting ended, Shun Shuwei called Qiao Yang into the office to continue discussing the live broadcast. They worked until noon to finalize all the details, with only the selection of a suitable candidate remaining. When it comes to celebrities, Shun Shuwei actually knows a few. Her best friend is a well-known actress, and quite famous at that. But this matter has Shun Shuwei hesitating. Should she ask Shung Sungyu to step in and help? If Shun Shuwei speaks up, Shung Sungyu would definitely agree without question. But Shung Sungyu has been working out of town recently, and if she were to come help, she'd have to put aside her current tasks. Just as Shun Shuwei was agonizing over this, Shung Sungyu proactively called her. Shun Shuwei immediately answered the phone. "Sungyu, aren't you busy? How do you have time to call me?" "Shuwei, I'm back in Haicheng." Why so sudden?" Shun Shuwei asked with some surprise. "My sister's in trouble. How could I just stand by? Is there anything I can do to help? When it comes to handling public opinion, I've got quite the knack." With that, Shung Sungyu chuckled to herself. "I was actually hesitating whether to ask for your help, but since you're already back, I won't hold back. What's between us that you need to be so polite? Really? Then come to my company, and we'll talk face to face." "Okay, I'll be there in about half an hour." After hanging up, Shun Shuwei called Jiyu Shiyu to let her know that something urgent had come up at noon and he wouldn't be able to make it to her shop for lunch. When Sheng Songyu arrived, Shen Shuwei took her to a restaurant near the company and they dined in a private room that had been reserved in advance. As they ate, they briefly discussed the matter. Sheng Songyu agreed without hesitation, saying to her friend, "No problem, just get the live streaming venue ready as soon as possible. And I'm available anytime, thank you, Songyu. Thanks are unnecessary between us. Sheng Songyu runs her own studio and hasn't signed with any media companies. Therefore, she has full autonomy over all her work." After finalizing the candidate, Shen Shuwei felt somewhat relieved. In the afternoon, she returned to the company and arranged for someone to start warming up the online buzz. Sheng Songyu also posted on Weibo, teasing tonight's live streaming event. This was the first PR crisis Shen Shuwei encountered after taking over the jewelry company. Old Man Yu inquired about it, and after learning Shen Shuwei's thoughts, he told her to go ahead and do it without hesitation. He believed Shen Shuwei could smoothly resolve this matter. Chapter 41, Brand Livestream. The employees of Yu Corporation worked with high efficiency, setting up the livestream room within half a day. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Sheng Songyu, dressed in a long black evening gown with her straight hair cascading over her shoulders, slowly walked to the live broadcast area. "Hello, friends in the livestream. Good evening, Tilda." Sheng Songyu greeted the audience with a bright smile. "I'm Sheng Songyu." As soon as Sheng Songyu appeared, the barrage in the live stream immediately became more active. "Songyu looks so beautiful today, Tilda. Sister is glowing with beauty." Sticking close to Sister Songyu, "Wow, the radiant Songyu, long time no see. I thought it was a scam. Sheng Songyu has never done a live broadcast before. How could she possibly appear in Heir Jewelry's livestream?" "Exactly. I've heard recently that Heir Jewelry has serious quality issues. But the pearl necklace Sangyu is wearing around her neck looks really nice. Kind of want to buy it." The host in the livestream turned to Sheng Sangyu and asked with a smile, "Sangyu, your fans are saying you've never done a livestream before, is that true?" Sheng Sangyu nodded gently. "Yes, this is my first livestream." "Then why are you appearing in Heir Jewelry's livestream?" the host asked jokingly. "Is it like the comments say, because the pay was good enough?" "Of course not. There are quite a few brands that want to invite me to do live streams." Sheng Songyu's brows relaxed as she spoke in a calm tone. "My regular fans probably already know that I'm a loyal VIP of Heir Jewelry. And secondly," at this point, Sheng Songyu paused. "What secondly?" "I believe the audience in the livestream must be very curious too." The chat was filled with messages echoing the host's words, urging Sheng Songyu to continue. Sheng Songyu playfully blinked her eyes. "Secondly, the current person in charge of Heir Jewelry is a good friend of mine." As soon as these words were spoken, it was like a stone causing 1,000 ripples. The barrage of comments exploded instantly. Sheng Songyu and Shen Shuwei have known each other for many years. And many people in Haicheng are aware that the two are close friends. Rather than having it exposed by others later, it's better to say it outright now. "Oh, so Songyu is good friends with our general manager?" "Yes, that's right," Sheng Songyu nodded. "So I can't just stand by and watch Heir Jewelry be maliciously targeted and deliberately smeared. I want everyone to see for themselves what the quality of Heir Jewelry is really like. Now, let's invite our jewelry maker to come on stage and demonstrate how to make a bracelet live." After the jewelry maker walked into the live broadcast area, they first gave a brief introduction to the cords used for stringing the bracelet. "The ropes we use at Heir are typically fishing elastic thread, glass elastic thread, fishing thread, or synthetic fiber rope," Sheng Songyu asked curiously. "For the pearl bracelet mentioned in the post, which type of rope is usually used?" "Pearl bracelets are made with either fishing thread or synthetic cotton thread. Just these two." The jewelry maker handed the two ropes to Sheng Songyu. Sheng Songyu tugged hard at them, trying several times, but couldn't manage to break the threads. "Oh dear, it's left red marks on my hand, but the thread still won't break." Sheng Songyu raised her hand to show the others in the livestream, proving she had really tried hard. The jewelry maker said, "These two types of cords are very sturdy. Unless someone is extremely strong or uses a tool to cut them, they won't break. I'd like to try making a bracelet myself. Could you guide me through it?" "No problem at all. Under the guidance of the jewelry maker, Shung Sangyu successfully strung a pearl bracelet. She held the bracelet she had strung in her hand and gave it a firm tug. It still didn't break. Seeing is believing. I hope everyone can judge for themselves and not be swayed by those with ulterior motives. The audience in the live stream all agreed with what Shung Sangyu said. High-end business battles often employ the simplest methods. Throwing mud. To be fair, I've bought jewelry from Heir Jewelry before, and the quality is indeed good. I originally thought Heir Jewelry was a big store bullying customers, but it turns out to be worth the price. Everyone, keep your eyes peeled and don't let others manipulate the narrative. Sob sob, how awful. I almost fell for the haters' tricks. Putting other things aside for now, Sangyu, is the pearl necklace you're wearing right now from Heir? Put it up for sale. I'll place an order right away. I want it too. I want it too. Millimeter. This pearl necklace I'm wearing is indeed from Heir. Originally, we weren't planning to sell anything during this livestream, but since you all want it, I'll just put up a link then. Shung Sangyu had barely finished speaking when the live-streaming assistant set up the shopping cart link. There were 100 items listed in the product link, and believe it or not, they sold out in seconds. OMG, how fast are you guys? Just clicked in and it's already gone. Same here, Sangyu. Please restock. I couldn't get any. Sobbing, Shung Sangyu said helplessly to everyone. My dears, it's not that I don't want to list the product, but there's simply not enough stock available. The platform doesn't allow pre-orders, so you can try purchasing at physical stores. Some stores still have stock. In the following part of the live stream, Shung Sangyu chatted with her fans. Until the end of the live stream, the atmosphere remained light and joyful. With the highest viewership peaking at over 200,000 simultaneous viewers, some clips from Shung Sangyu's livestream were also edited and posted on Heir Jewelry's official account. Many fans and casual viewers realized that the original poster was purely trying to stir up trouble with malicious intent, and they rushed to criticize that person mercilessly. Soon, the post that deliberately slandered Heir Jewelry was deleted. After the livestream ended, many people immediately went to Heir Jewelry's stores, eager to purchase the pearl necklace that Shung Sangyu had worn. Someone happily managed to buy it, someone didn't get it, but didn't leave empty-handed either, opting for other attractive styles available in the store. The store staff were extremely busy, and all the management team went to help out at the store. This PR crisis was successfully resolved, and it even brought in considerable revenue. Shun Shuwei promised to treat colleagues to a grand meal and open champagne for celebration once this busy period was over. While celebrations were in full swing here, Lin Yunyu was fuming with rage on the other side, smashing her wine glass onto the ground, venting her fury. Damn it. Shun Shuwei actually turned the tables in just one day. The woman sitting beside her smiled, swirling her wine glass, and then parted her lips to speak. Yunyu, rather than exhausting yourself dealing with a love rival, why not focus your efforts on winning over young Master Gu? Qin Wen, do you have a good idea? Qin Wen moved closer to Lin Yunyu, her red lips nearing her ear, whispering a few words. After hearing Qin Wen's suggestion, Lin Yunyu's eyes lit up. Wen, if I can successfully win over Jiu Zeyue, I promise to give you a grand gift. Qin Wen picked up a clean red wine glass and eagerly poured wine for Lin Yunyu, softly saying, My father has some interest in that piece of land by Feiyue Lake in the northern part of the city. The bidding process, once I secure Jiu Zeyue, everything will be easy to discuss. Lin Yunyu lifted her glass, clinked it with Qin Wen's, and downed the red wine in one gulp. Meanwhile, Jiu Zeyue, busy at work in the office, suddenly felt a chill run down his spine and an itch in his nose. Achoo, achoo. Jiu Zeyue sneezed several times in a row. President Jiu, is the air conditioning set too low? Fang Yu paused his work and looked up at Jiu Zeyue. Jiu Zeyue wiped his nose with a tissue and replied, Yes, turn the air conditioning up by 2 degrees. Chapter 42, Qiao Yang's Kind Heart. It was past 11 at night when Qiao Yang finally finished his work. He turned off the computer and got ready to go home. The streets at night were quiet. Qiao Yang held the steering wheel as the dim streetlights flickered past his eyes through the car window, one after another, as he passed by the cafe. Xiao Yang noticed several large boxes piled up at the entrance. Jiyu Shiu was moving the goods inside alone. Despite being exhausted from the day, Xiao Yang didn't hesitate to pull over and park his car. A black Toyota car parked in front of the store, and just as Jiyu Shiu was wondering about it, Xiao Yang pushed the car door open and stepped out. Dressed in a full suit, he walked towards her. "Mr. Xiao, it's you," Jiyu Shiu asked with a smile. "It's so late, you're not here for coffee, are you?" Xiao Yang had come to buy coffee a few times before, and because he mentioned being a colleague of Shen Shui, Jiyu Shiu had a strong impression of him. "It's too late, I won't buy coffee today." Xiao Yang rolled up his sleeves and pointed at the cardboard boxes, asking, "Are all these to be moved into the shop?" Jiyu Shiu wiped the fine sweat from her forehead and nodded in reply. "Yes, that's right, the delivery was late today, so I'm the only one in the shop. Let me help you move them in. You take the small boxes, leave the others to me." Without further ado, Xiao Yang started moving the goods. "Ah, thank you so much." Jiyu Shiu was a bit surprised. Xiao Yang usually didn't talk much, always sitting in the corner after ordering coffee and leaving as soon as he got it. She never expected Xiao Yang to be such a warm-hearted person. "All these goods delivered today are ingredients needed for making desserts, like flour, butter, cream, and such." Each box was extremely heavy. If Xiao Yang hadn't stopped to help, Jiyu Shiu probably wouldn't have been able to straighten her back tomorrow. After about 10 minutes of moving, the two finally carried everything into the shop. Jiyu Shiu walked to the counter, poured a glass of water, and handed it to Xiao Yang. "You've worked hard, thanks to your help." "You're welcome, you're a friend of President Shen, so I consider you an acquaintance too." Xiao Yang took the glass and drank the water in one gulp. Moving the stuff had made him sweat, and he was genuinely thirsty. Jiyu Shiu silently poured him another glass of water. After drinking 3 glasses of water in a row, Xiao Yang finally said, "No need to pour me any more, if there's nothing else. I'll take my leave now." "Are you hungry?" "I got a bit hungry after moving the goods and was planning to grab a bite." Jiyu Shiu smiled and said, "If you're hungry, I'll treat you to a late-night snack." "I usually don't eat late-night snacks." Xiao Yang paused, then smiled and said, "But today can be an exception." "Ha ha ha, let's go then. I'll grab the keys to lock up." Jiyu Shiu turned off the lights in the shop and securely locked the door. "What would you like to eat?" Xiao Yang asked. "I feel like having barbecue, but there doesn't seem to be a barbecue place around here." Xiao Yang walked to the car and opened the passenger door. "Get in. I know a really good barbecue place." Jiyu Shiu had originally driven here herself, but she didn't say anything and got into Xiao Yang's Toyota. Half an hour later, the car stopped in front of several open-air food stalls, with tables and chairs set up right by the roadside. As soon as Jiyu Shiu stepped out of the car, she caught the aroma of grilled food in the air. Just the smell alone makes it seem delicious. Xiao Yang closed the car door and chuckled softly. "It smells delicious. And it'll taste even better." The two walked side by side into one of the barbecue shops. An apron-clad auntie approached and asked, "Would you like to sit inside or outside?" "If you sit outside, there's natural breeze and big fans." Jiyu Shiu glanced at the customers inside and subtly furrowed her brows. "There are many people smoking inside. How about we sit outside?" Xiao Yang nodded slightly. "All right, let's sit outside then." After ordering, the aunt brought them a large pot of water along with 2 disposable cups. The water pot looked old and faded from use. Xiao Yang moved the pot aside and asked Jiyu Shiu, "What drink would you like? There's a convenience store over there. I'll go buy some. See if they have soda water. If not, just get me a bottle of cola." "All right, I'll be right back." Xiao Yang got up and walked toward the convenience store at the end of the alley. Jiyu Shiu took out a tissue from her bag and wiped the table. She had been to barbecue restaurants before, but never to one set up by the roadside like this. This must be what they call a fly restaurant, where the best food is hidden in the most ordinary places. Jiyu Shiu propped her chin on her hand, turned to look in the direction Xiao Yang had left, and stared blankly in a daze. "Hey, beautiful, are you here alone for barbecue?" A man's voice reached Jiyu Shiu's ears. Jiyu Shiu thought the person was talking to someone else, so she didn't even glance in their direction. "Hey, I'm talking to you, don't you have any manners?" Two men with a slovenly appearance stood in front of Jiyu Shiyu, blocking her view. Are you talking to me? Jiyu Shiyu pointed at herself. Otherwise, the man's eyes gleamed with ill intent. Eating barbecue alone is so boring. Let us brothers keep you company for a while. No need, I came with my boyfriend. He went to buy water and will be back soon. Jiyu Shiyu lied without batting an eye. Then leave your number. I'll treat you to a meal sometime. Jiyu Shiyu, are they deaf? How can they be so shameless? Come on, give me your number. One of the men, seeing Jiyu Shiyu remain silent, reached out to put his hand on her shoulder, just as Jiyu Shiyu was about to throw him over her shoulder. Xiao Yang returned at that moment and forcefully grabbed the man's arm. Ah! The man screamed in pain. Only now did these two realize they might have provoked someone tough. What do you think you're doing? Xiao Yang's eyes burned with cold fury, his voice devoid of any warmth. Nothing. We just wanted to make friends. Please be magnanimous and let us go. Xiao Yang coldly spat out a single word. Get lost. Jiyu Shiyu stared fixedly at Xiao Yang before her, not blinking. She only felt that he was more dazzling than the incandescent lamp above, and her heartbeat suddenly quickened. Chapter 43, Heartbeat, Budding. Xiao Yang let go, and the two men slunk away. Soon, the barbecue they ordered was served, covering the entire table. Try the grilled oysters and squid while they're hot. The environment of this place isn't great, but the taste is still good, Xiao Yang said, placing a skewer of squid and an oyster in Jiyu Shiyu's bowl. Millimeter, thank you, she replied. Jiyu Shiyu picked up the grilled squid, took a couple of bites, and nodded repeatedly. It's indeed grilled to perfection. The squid isn't too dry, and the seasoning is delicious. I'm glad you like it. Xiao Yang unscrewed the cap of Jiyu Shiyu's soda and placed it in front of her, making it convenient for her to drink anytime. Jiyu Shiyu ate the barbecue, sighing in her heart. Xiao Yang was such a thoughtful person, even taking the initiative to help her unscrew the bottle cap. By the way, Miss Jiyu, are you okay? Xiao Yang asked with concern. Were you frightened just now? I'm fine. Something like this wouldn't scare me. Jiyu Shiyu's lips curled slightly as she looked at Xiao Yang and said, Mr. Xiao, my full name is Jiyu Shiyu. You can call me Shiyu, just like Shui does. Alright, Shiyu. A gentle smile appeared on Xiao Yang's face. You can call me Xiao Yang. Although we've met a few times before, I feel like today is the first time we've truly gotten to know each other. Before, every time Xiao Yang came to the shop, he would just place his order and sit waiting for his coffee, with little interaction between them. To Jiyu Shiyu, Xiao Yang had been just one among many customers. But after tonight, she felt that the distance between them had grown much smaller. She also saw that Xiao Yang, who usually didn't talk much, was actually a very warm-hearted and considerate person. Yes, we've only exchanged a few words before, and it was across the counter. Xiao Yang recalled the earlier incident and said somewhat seriously, you weren't scared by those two just now, but if you encounter such people again in the future, you should stay away from them. Jiyu Shiyu nodded gently. It's a good thing you were here just now, otherwise, I might have had to perform a shoulder throw in front of you. Xiao Yang looked at her in surprise and teased, I thought it was going to be a hero saving the beauty. Turns out I just interrupted your moment to shine. No, Jiyu Shiyu waved her hands repeatedly. I'm wearing a skirt today, so it wouldn't be very convenient to show my skills. Xiao Yang chuckled a few times and said, I was just joking. With me here, how could I possibly let you step in? Did you practice taekwondo before? Jiyu Shiyu shook her head. Not taekwondo. I learned sonda. Sonda, that's good too. Xiao Yang continued asking, how old were you when you started training? I can't quite remember, probably around 5 years old. I grew up in a military compound, and as a kid, I fought even harder than the boys. I was the leader of the pack. It wasn't until college that I returned to Haicheng. Back to Haicheng. So your hometown is Haicheng? Yeah, that's right. My grandpa and uncle's whole family live in Haicheng, and my dad grew up there. Jiyu Shiyu finished speaking, then asked curiously, what about you? From your accent, you don't sound like you're from Haicheng. My hometown is a small place. Chances are you've never heard of it before. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, Jiyu Shiyu grew even more curious. What kind of place? Do tell. Qingyang City. Have you heard of it? Ji Xiu thought for a long time and finally had to admit, it seems I really haven't heard of it. Although Qingyang City is a small place, it has a very good environment, green mountains, clear waters, and exceptionally fresh air. If I get the chance, I'll visit for a few days. You'll have to be my guide, Tilda. Xiao Yang immediately nodded in agreement. Of course, no problem. The two chatted while eating barbecue, taking their time and finishing their order only after over an hour. Through their conversation, Ji Xiu learned more about Xiao Yang and grew to admire him. Despite coming from a small town, Xiao Yang had worked hard to get into a prestigious university in the country. After 5 or 6 years of work, he had already bought an apartment and a car in Haicheng. It may not be a mansion or a luxury car, but given the housing prices in Haicheng, being able to establish oneself here is already quite an achievement. This shows that he is truly hardworking and ambitious, someone who has a clear plan for his life. Most importantly, Ji Xiu knew that Xiao Yang was currently unmarried and didn't even have a girlfriend. After finishing the barbecue, Xiao Yang took out his wallet to pay the bill, only to hear the auntie at the barbecue shop say, "Your girlfriend has already paid." Hearing the auntie's words, Xiao Yang suddenly blushed. After coughing a few times, he said to Ji Xiu, "Xiu, it's very late now, let me take you home." "It is indeed very late, and you have work early tomorrow morning. I'll just take a taxi back." Ji Xiu politely declined. For now, Ji Xiu didn't want Xiao Yang to know that she was the heiress of the Ji family, probably afraid that he would feel distant from her if he knew. Alright then. Xiao Yang took out his phone and opened his WeChat profile. "Would it be convenient to add you on WeChat? Let me know when you get home." "Sure, let's add WeChat. Next time you want coffee, you can place an order in advance on WeChat, and I'll have it ready for you." Ji Xiu scanned the WeChat QR code and added Xiao Yang as a friend. Hailing a taxi by the roadside, Xiao Yang watched the car drive away, unable to suppress a smile at the corner of his mouth. Back at the barbecue shop, when the auntie said Ji Xiu was his girlfriend, in that instant, he felt a surge of joy in his heart. Ji Xiu was a beautiful and cheerful girl, like the morning sunshine, capable of making people feel as if bathed in a gentle spring breeze. The next day at noon, Shun Shuwei finished her work earlier than usual and arrived at the cafe half an hour ahead of her regular time. There were 3 tables of customers seated in the shop, with a barista making coffee at the counter. The air was filled with the rich aroma of coffee. Ji Xiu sat in the pavilion of the courtyard, typing on her phone. It was unclear who she was chatting with, but she wore a constant smile on her face. "Xiu, who are you chatting with? You look so happy," Shun Shuwei asked as she walked up the steps. Looking at Ji Xiu with a gossipy expression, "It's nothing, just a customer from the shop," Ji Xiu replied, too embarrassed to tell Shun Shuwei that she was chatting with Xiao Yang. Ji Xiu then asked, "Shuwei, aren't you busy today? You seem to have arrived a bit earlier than usual. The vegetables are chopped but not cooked yet. I'll go stir-fry them now. I'll do the cooking. You go ahead and set the table," Shun Shuwei said as she walked familiarly into the small kitchen and stir-fried all the prepared ingredients. Shun Shuwei wasn't the type to just sit back and wait for food to be served. Her cooking skills were excellent too. When the dishes were cooked and served, Ji Xiu and the shop assistant ate with great relish, and the 3 of them finished all the food. When Xiao Yang arrived at the cafe, it was already around 1 in the afternoon. "President Shun, have you had lunch?" Xiao Yang greeted Shun Shuwei. Shun Shuwei nodded slightly. "Yes, I've eaten. Here for coffee again." "Yeah, that's right. I'll go in and grab my coffee first." Xiao Yang walked to the counter to get coffee from Ji Xiu. No one knew what they were talking about, but a bright smile appeared on Ji Xiu's face. Shun Shuwei rested her chin on one hand, her neatly trimmed fingertips unconsciously tapping her cheek as she thoughtfully watched the two conversing. She couldn't help but feel that the relationship between these two seemed to have suddenly grown much closer. When did Xiao Yang and Ji Xiu become so close? Chapter 44, Elder Ji pays a personal visit. In the evening, Shun Shuwei drove back to the Yu family villa. Stepping through the gate under the setting sun, "Uncle Yao, has grandfather returned yet?" she asked while sitting on the entryway shoe bench, bending over to change her shoes. The butler replied softly, Yes, we have guests at home. Elder Yu is having tea with them in the tea room, Shun Shui responded with a hum, silently speculating that they might be business associates of the Yu family. She had just finished changing her shoes and was about to go upstairs to check on the two little ones. At that moment, a servant descended from upstairs and said, "Young mistress, the elder is requesting your presence in the tea room." "Okay, got it." Shun Shui went up to the third floor and stood outside the tea room, raising her hand to knock on the door. Soon, she heard Old Master Yu's voice from inside. "Shui, come in." Shun Shui pushed the door open and entered. When she saw Old Master Yu, she froze for a moment but quickly regained her usual composure. Grandpa Yu." Shun Shui politely greeted the two elders. "Shui, come sit here." Old Master Yu raised his hand, signaling for Shun Shui to take the seat beside him. "Shui, it's been a long time. You've grown even more beautiful, and you look full of energy too," Old Master Yu said with a beaming smile. Shun Shui now has her own career, and it's clear she's in much better spirits compared to when she was a full-time housewife. "Grandpa Yu, it's been a while. How have you been?" Shun Shui asked with concern. "Never better." Old Master Yu chuckled and continued. "I just spent a few months in Switzerland and only returned a couple of days ago." "That's good to hear." Shun Shui nodded gently, though she felt a bit uneasy inside. Old Master Yu never visits without a reason. And his sudden appearance today, her intuition told her it couldn't be anything good. Old Master Yu set down his teacup and said quietly, "Your Grandpa Yu just showed me many photos. Truly enviable. Grandpa, I'll definitely make time in the future to accompany you on more outings." "Oh, girls are always more thoughtful," Old Master Yu said with a hint of envy. "My bratty grandson would never say such things." "Old Yu, you should be content. Your Ziyue is so outstanding. How many noble daughters in Haicheng dream of marrying him? No matter how many people fancy him, it's useless. If he doesn't like them, what can we do?" Old Man Yu glanced at Shun Shui, as if implying something. Shun Shui didn't catch the meaning behind Old Man Gu's look, but she agreed with his words. Jiu Ziyue was indeed a cold and indifferent person, caring only about his work. Old Man Yu sighed. "Ah, children and grandchildren will have their own fortunes. There's only so much we can meddle in." Speaking of children and grandchildren, Old Man Yu put away his smile and said seriously, "What exactly are your plans for Chen Chen and 1111? I just saw the two children downstairs. Don't try to fool me." "Now, Old Yu, what do you mean by that?" "Ziyue arranged for a paternity test, and you must already know the results." Old Man Yu fired back without hesitation. Old Master Yu must have already figured out the whole story before coming here today. "Paternity test? Didn't Ziyu ever tell you that the test report was tampered with?" Old Master Yu continued. "Besides, I don't believe in paternity tests. Whether it's Ziyu's child or not, Shui should know best." Shun Shui lowered her head and didn't respond to Old Master Gu's words. Old Man Yu said discontentedly, "Never mind whether it's your Jiyu family's child or not. Our Shui had the child after the divorce and raised the kid all by herself through hard work." Old Man Jiyu softened his tone a bit. "I know, Shui has had a tough time these years. I've heard Ziyue say that both children have been raised very well by Shui, well-behaved, sensible, and very bright." Shun Shui picked up the teapot and poured tea for both elders, saying softly, "Grandpa Jiyu, I'll think about it again." A while ago, when Jiyu Ziyue suggested a paternity test, Shun Shui had already prepared herself mentally to face the matter proactively. The paternity test results came out, showing that Jiyu Ziyue and the children were not biologically related. After this, Shun Shui held on to a glimmer of hope, wanting to delay the matter, thinking that if she dragged it out long enough, the Jiyu family might forget about it. "Shui, I've always felt deeply for you. But since our Ziyue divorced you, he hasn't been involved with any other women, let alone considered remarrying." Old Master Jiyu sighed. "I hope you can understand, apart from these two children, Ziyue probably won't have any other children in the future. As an elder of the Jiyu family, I want to see our own flesh and blood return to their roots. Alas, I don't have many years left to live." Shun Shui, "There's really no need for that. You were just saying how healthy you are." "I understand, Grandpa Jiyu." Shun Shui replied with a faint smile. Having said what needed to be said, Old Master Jiyu went to the children's room to check on the two kids before bidding farewell and leaving. Shun Shui and Old Master Yu sat in the double-height living room on the first floor, where a gentle breeze drifted in through the half-open window, causing the soft white gauze curtains to sway lightly. Old Man Yu spoke to Shun Shui, saying, "Shui, it seems this matter can't be delayed any longer. As you've seen over this period, both children have grown very fond of Jiyu Ziyue and are particularly close to him. Their biological father is right here, and the bond of blood cannot be severed." Shun Shui responded softly, "Yes, I know. Another point is, you need to consider the children. The two children belong to the Jiyu family, and they should also have inheritance rights. The Jiyu family's vast fortune. Are you going to make the decision for them, to give up all that property?" Old Man Yu's words moved Shun Shui somewhat. Indeed, although Shun Shui is the children's mother, she cannot unilaterally decide for them to give up the Jiyu family's inheritance. If she made such a decision on her own, it would be somewhat selfish. The children have the right to know. Both little ones adore Jiyu Ziyue, and he is equally fond of them. Perhaps the time has come. Chapter 45, A Frank Conversation. At 3 o'clock the next afternoon, Shun Shui drove to the Junfeng Group building and parked her car in a shaded roadside spot. Shun Shui looked up at the towering skyscraper before her, the tallest office building in Haicheng, entirely owned by the Jiyu family. She had often driven past this place before but had never stepped inside. Suppressing her scattered thoughts, Shun Shui took out her phone and called Jiyu Ziyue. The call was quickly answered, and Jiyu Ziyue's deep voice came through the phone. "Shui, yes, it's me," Shun Shui responded, then asked, "Ziyue, are you busy right now?" "Not busy today. Go ahead," he replied. Shun Shui certainly didn't know that whenever she needed him, he would never be too busy for her. "Are you at the company?" "Some things might be better discussed in person." "I'm at the company," Jiyu Ziyue replied gently. "It's very hot outside right now." "Where are you? I can come to you." "No need, I'm already downstairs at your company." Hearing Shun Shui's words, Jiyu Ziyue immediately stood up, walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, and scanned the area downstairs. "Shui, wait for me in the lobby downstairs. I'll come down to get you right away." Shun Shui gave an affirmative hum, hung up the phone, pushed the car door open, and stepped out. Under the blazing sun, she walked into the entrance of Junfeng Group in her high heels. She walked to the reception area next to the first-floor front desk and sat down directly. One of the receptionists came over with a glass of water and placed it on the coffee table in front of Shun Shui. The receptionist smiled and asked, "Hello, who are you here to see? Do you have an appointment? Would you like me to notify them for you?" "Thank you." "No need," Shun Shui replied calmly. "I already have an appointment. I'm waiting here for him to come down and meet me." "All right, please have a seat and wait for a moment," the receptionist said politely before turning and walking away. After waiting for about a minute, the elevator door of the executive private elevator opened, and Jiyu Ziyue stepped out. "Good afternoon, President." Seeing Jiyu Ziyue come down, the three receptionists immediately stood up and greeted him respectfully. Jiyu Ziyue merely gave a slight nod and walked briskly toward Shun Shui. "Shui." The moment he saw Shun Shui, his stern expression softened slightly. Shun Shui, who was looking at her phone, raised her head to glance at Jiyu Ziyue and smiled slightly. "Ziyue, let's go, we'll talk upstairs." Seeing Shun Shui follow Jiyu Ziyue into the CEO's private elevator, the receptionists whispered among themselves as if they had discovered a new world. "Am I seeing things? The CEO personally came down to pick up a woman. You probably didn't see wrong. Speaking of which, I've worked at the company for several years, but this is the first time I've seen the CEO take such an interest in a woman. Hey, do you think she might be our future boss's wife?" The mere thought of this possibility made the three of them immediately drop the topic. Offending the future CEO's wife would be the last thing they'd want. Shun Shui followed Jiyu Ziyue into the CEO's office. Fang Yu happened to be out on business and wasn't in the office at the moment. Otherwise, Shun Shui would likely have discovered immediately that Jiyu Ziyue had secretly purchased the property. After the two took their seats, the secretary brought in 2 glasses of water. Thank you. After the secretary closed the door and left, Shen Shui slowly surveyed the office. The warm afternoon sunlight poured in through the large floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating an entire wall of filing cabinets and bookshelves, with folders and books neatly arranged. The overall decor features a minimalist and sophisticated color palette. Next to the sofa where Shen Shui is currently sitting, a potted Phalaenopsis orchid is placed. Shui, is this your first time at the company? Shall I show you around later? Jiuzhua raised his handsome eyebrows slightly. His deep and profound eyes fixed intently on her. Shen Shui took a moment to compose herself before saying, "Another day. I came here today because I have something to tell you." "You suddenly sought me out. What's the matter?" Jiuzhua got straight to the point. Shen Shui said softly, "Grandpa Jiu came to my house yesterday and talked to me at length. He hopes I can let the two children undergo another paternity test." "Oh." Jiuzhua's eyes flickered with a hint of amusement as he asked, "And what's your decision?" "I agree to take another paternity test, but I have one condition." Jiuzhua tapped his slender fingers on the armrest and asked, "What condition?" "In the future, we will co-parent these two children. If Chen Chen and 1111 are willing, they can occasionally stay at the Jiu family's house for a few days." Shen Shui added precisely, "You cannot fight me for custody." Although Shen Shui didn't directly admit that the child was Jiuzhua's, her current words were tantamount to tacit acknowledgement. Jiuzhua chuckled lightly. "If you're worried I might fight for custody, I actually have a better proposal." Shen Shui, hopeful yet puzzled, asked, "A better proposal? Divorced couples can remarry. How about we get our marriage certificate again and raise the child together? What do you think?" Jiuzhua's slightly raised tone, like a pebble dropping into a lake, sent ripples through her heart. This man actually wanted to remarry her. Shen Shui looked directly at him. His gaze was calm and profound, unfathomable, making it impossible for her to discern his emotions. "Impossible," Shen Shui said coolly, outright rejecting his proposal. Though she didn't know what Jiuzhua was thinking, she was very clear that she had no such intention for the time being. "Shui, no matter when, I will always respect your choice." Jiuzhua didn't show any sign of disappointment. He had anticipated her answer long ago. Shen Shui took a sip of water to moisten her throat before pulling an envelope from her bag. She spoke slowly, "Let's get back to the main topic. This contains hair samples from the two children. Third time's the charm. This is the last chance. If anything goes wrong again, Shui, I believe Chen Chen and 1111 are my children. There's no need for any paternity test. I will acknowledge them as part of the Jiu family." Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi bore such a striking resemblance to Jiuzhua that anyone with eyes could likely tell they were his children. Jiuzhua had always believed that a paternity test was completely unnecessary. No matter what, Shen Shui still insisted on her own opinion. "If we're going to acknowledge their ancestry, it's better to do the test. I don't want anyone questioning the children's lineage. Since you insist on doing it, fine. I'll find a reliable testing agency and have it done again." Jiuzhua reached out and took the envelope. "I've said all I wanted to say. Once the results come out, you can have the agency send them to me. I have work to attend to this afternoon, so I'll take my leave now." Shen Shui picked up her bag and stood up. Jiuzhua also stood up. "I'll walk you downstairs." As they walked out, Shen Shui inadvertently noticed a photo frame. Inside the frame was the group photo taken that day at the children's park. It seemed Jiuzhua truly adored Chen Chen and 1111, which was why he kept the photo on his office desk. The three female employees at the front desk watched as Jiuzhua personally escorted Shen Shui downstairs once again, even braving the scorching sun to walk her all the way to the roadside parking area. Jiuzhua's regard for Shen Shui was visibly apparent. "It's blazing hot outside. You should head back now," Shen Shui said as she pulled open the car door and slid into the driver's seat, instantly feeling the searing heat on her skin. A gentle smile curled at the corners of Jiuzhua's lips. "I'm fine. Drive carefully," he replied. "All right, I'll head off first. Let's keep in touch." With that, Shen Shui rolled up the car window and drove away. Watching Shen Shui's car disappear into the distance, Jiuzhua finally turned and walked back to the company. his eyes brimming with unconcealable joy. Even if Shun Shui only saw him as an ordinary friend now, he would take step by step to get closer to her. In the end, he would pull her back into his world once again. Chapter 46, a lead emerges. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Shun Shui had just driven into the company's underground parking lot when her phone began to vibrate. Glancing at the caller ID, Shun Shui answered the call and then tapped the speakerphone button. She spoke while backing the car into the parking space. "Brother, what's up, Shui? I heard you agreed to take another paternity test." "Yeah, that's right," Shun Shui replied. "You should think it through carefully," Shun Rui said with concern. "You know, once the test results come out, Jiu Ziyue might try to fight you for custody." "I know, bro, it was bound to happen sooner or later. I feel like Jiu Ziyue is different now. Although he loves Chen Chen and 1111, he probably won't fight me for custody." Shun Shui had already parked the car by now, and the music had stopped, leaving the interior quiet. "Ha." Shun Rui chuckled lightly. "What kind of sweet talk has he been feeding you and the kids? It's one thing for Chen Chen and 1111 to enjoy playing with him, but even you're speaking up for him now." Shun Rui had no fondness for Jiu Ziyue whatsoever. In his view, Jiu Ziyue's previous lukewarm attitude towards his own sister was practically akin to emotional abuse. "Bro," Shun Shui felt the air in the car was a bit stuffy. She rolled down the window and continued speaking to Shun Rui. "I'm not speaking up for him. We agreed that the children would be co-parented by both of us. How are you going to co-parent? Are you planning to remarry Jiu Ziyue?" Shun Rui raised his voice, sounding somewhat anxious. "Of course not. I mean, if Chen Chen and 1111 are willing, they can stay at the Jiu family's place for a few days. I won't stop them." "You scared me." Shun Rui let out a sigh of relief. "Back then, marrying him was Dad's arrangement. You had no choice. Marriage is a big deal. It needs careful consideration." Hearing Shun Rui mention our dad, Shun Shui froze for a moment, momentarily at a loss. "Brother, I know, you don't need to worry about me. If anything's on your mind, you can talk to me. It's always good to have someone to discuss things with." Yeah, Shun Shui responded repeatedly, glancing at her watch before hurriedly saying, "Bro, I've got a client meeting coming up soon. I'll have to cut this short for now, alright? Remember to let me know once the appraisal results come out. Millimeter." "Got it, I'm hanging up now." Shun Shui ended the call, touched up her lipstick in the car, then stepped out and headed toward the elevator. Back in the office, barely settled in her seat, Jianglu knocked on the door and said, "President Shun, the client has arrived and is waiting for you in the small meeting room." "Alright, I'll head over now." Shun Shui picked up her documents and notebook, standing up to walk towards the small meeting room. Evening, at the Yu family villa, as Shun Shui stepped through the front door and was changing her shoes in the entryway, she faintly heard Shun Rui's voice. Walking into the living room, Shun Rui had indeed returned and was chatting with old man Yu. "Shui, you're back. How was work today? Was it tiring?" Shun Rui looked up at Shun Shui and asked. "Not too bad, not very tiring." Shun Shui sat down next to Shun Rui and poured herself a cup of tea. "Brother, how have things been at the company lately?" Recently, her work has also become busier, and she hasn't inquired much about her brother's affairs at the company. She wondered if Shun Yuhong had caused any trouble. "Same as usual." Shun Rui shrugged helplessly and said, "He wants me to improve the company's performance but doesn't want me to get involved with the core authority, MPH. Shun Shui sneered. "That child will need another 20 years before they can take over the company. Naturally, he's in no hurry and would prefer to maintain the status quo indefinitely." "Is that child really your father's?" Old man Yu looked at Shun Rui and asked thoughtfully. "Most likely not." Hearing Shun Rui's answer, Shun Shui blinked, wearing an expression of eager anticipation. "Brother, did you find out something?" "Yes, there's a bit of a lead." Shun Rui nodded and said, "My informant told me he's seen Mu Ru secretly making phone calls to someone several times. He's trying to gather evidence now." Shun Shui said, "It would be best if we could have audio recordings, or videos and photos." Old Master Yu added, "The more detailed, the better. It would be ideal to also investigate the financial transactions. That way, when we confront her later, we can crush her in one go. Shunrui nodded and replied, "Alright, I'll have someone investigate her thoroughly." Noticing Aunt Jong bringing Shunruochan and Shunruoshi downstairs, the three of them tacitly stopped the topic and picked up their teacups to drink. Uncle Tilda. The two little ones walked up to Shunrui and asked sweetly, "When did you get back?" "Just arrived a moment ago. I heard you were upstairs reading, so I didn't go up." Shunrui scooped up both kids in his arms and gave them a little bounce. "Oh my, you two seem a bit heavier than last week. Looks like you've been eating well." Millimeter 1111 is the best behaved, Shunruoshi praised herself, wearing a proud expression. Yes, 1111 is very good, and Chen is also very good." Shunrui set them down. "Time to eat. Uncle will take you to wash your hands." Every time Shunrui returns, he tries his best to spend as much time as possible playing with his two little nephews. Old Man Yu's weathered face was filled with worry as he sighed softly. "Your brother is not getting any younger. And it's clear he likes children, but he just refuses to settle down. It's truly worrying. Grandpa, these things can't be rushed. Who knows, maybe in a few days. Brother's destined one will come along." Old Man Yu's lips twitched slightly. "You've said this to me no less than dozens of times." "No, I still have to make Ruya go on a blind date." Shunshui, "Brother, it's not that your little sister won't help you, but there's really nothing I can do." After dinner, Old Man Yu went to the study to call his old friends and catch up, and incidentally inquire about which families have unmarried young ladies of the right age. Chapter 47. Uncle Ji becomes daddy. It was past 9 in the evening, and the two little ones were already sound asleep. Shunshui and her brother sat with Grandpa Yu in the living room, watching the financial news. A notification chime sounded from her phone. Shunshui opened her email to find that the report for the second paternity test had arrived. She clicked on the email and scrolled down to the very bottom of the test results, where a line read, "The biological relationship index is 9,999%. Confirming Jiu Zeue as the biological father of Shunruochan and Shunruoshi, grandpa, brother." Shunshui placed her phone on the table and said, "The test results are out." And this time there were no surprises. Both Old Man Yu and Shunrui nodded in unison. No surprises meant the results confirmed the biological relationship between Jiu Zeue and the two children. "Shui, when do you plan to tell the children?" Old Man Yu asked. "I'll find a good time tomorrow to talk to them properly." Shunshui sighed. They both like Jiu Zeue very much. They'll probably be very happy to learn he's their biological father, right? "Yes, very likely." Shunrui nodded and said, "Although you've taken good care of the two children, the growth process isn't complete without the role of a father." Shunshui remained silent. Is a father truly an indispensable presence? From childhood to adulthood, Shunshui never received her father's love. It was always her mother who took care of her and nurtured her with great care, even though she excelled in both character and academics, even though her painting won first prize in the city. Even though she was proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, nor could he receive a reassuring glance from his father. Thinking of this, Shunshui felt a pang of sadness in her heart, because Shunshui suddenly realized that he still harbored resentment over his father's cold treatment. He had to admit that Shunrui was half right. His father was an irreplaceable presence. The premise is that he must be a father who genuinely cares for his child. If it were a father like Shun Yuhong, it would be better not to have one at all. At that moment, the phone on the coffee table vibrated several times with a buzzing sound. Interrupting her train of thought, "I need to take this call." The TV was still on, making the living room a bit noisy. Shunshui picked up her phone and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window in the hallway before answering the call. "Hello, Zeue." Shunshui stood by the window, where a crescent moon hung outside, and pink lotuses bloomed quietly in the pond. "Shui, have you seen the test results?" His voice was as rich as the sound of a piano, resonating in her ears. I see." Shunshui responded softly, "My parents and grandfather would like to meet the children. Could you bring Chen and 1111 to the Jiu family tomorrow?" Shunshui didn't hesitate at all. "Of course, I'll take them there tomorrow. Thank you, Shui." "No need for thanks. You are also Chen Chen and 1111's family, Shun Shui said. Then, see you tomorrow. Okay, get some rest early, see you tomorrow. Shun Shui walked back to the living room with her phone and told Grandpa Yu and Shun Rui about the plan to visit the Jiyu family the next day. Neither of them seemed surprised. Upon learning that Chen Chen and 1111 were the Jiyu family's children, they figured the elders of the Jiyu family must be eager to meet the two kids. The next morning, after finishing breakfast, Shun Shui began packing gifts for the elders of the Jiyu family. Mom, what are you preparing all these things for? Shun Ruoshi squatted beside the sofa, looking at the carefully prepared gifts with a curious expression as she asked, Sweetie, Mom will take you to the Jiyu family in a bit. These are gifts prepared for the elders. Shun Shui rummaged through the paper bags, checking if anything was missing. Shun Ruoshi tilted her head and asked, The Jiyu family, is it Uncle Gu's home? Shun Shui paused her hands and softly replied, Yes. They were almost done with the gifts when Jiyu Zua walked in at that moment. Seeing the mother and daughter talking, a gentle smile appeared on his lips. Uncle Jiyu tilde. Shun Ruoshi saw Jiyu Zua and immediately got up to run to his side, looking up at him. Mom said we're going to your house later. Why did you come over? I came to pick you up. Jiyu Zua touched the braid on Shun Ruoshi's head, then looked at Shun Shui, as if silently asking, Haven't you told the kids yet? Shun Shui pursed her lips and shook her head slightly. She had originally planned to organize the gifts before telling the two little ones, but Jiyu Zua suddenly showed up. Jiyu Zua hadn't mentioned last night that he would come to pick them up today. Shun Shui had been to the Jiyu family's house many times and was already familiar with the place, so she didn't think it was necessary for him to come get them. After finishing organizing the gifts, Shun Shui walked to the garden and called Shun Ruochen, who was playing on the slide, to come inside. Chen Chen, 1111, sit down properly. Mommy has something to tell you. Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi obediently climbed onto the sofa and sat side by side, their clear eyes fixed on Shun Shui. Jiyu Zua sat on the single sofa, legs crossed, his calm and deep eyes also waiting for Shun Shui's next words. With 3 pairs of eyes watching her, Shun Shui cleared her throat and spoke slowly. Chen Chen, 1111, your Uncle Jiyu is actually your biological father. Is Uncle Jiyu actually Dad? Shun Ruoshi tilted her head to look at Jiyu Zua. Had Uncle Jiyu become Dad? Hearing Shun Shui's words, Shun Ruochen wasn't surprised. In fact, he had already guessed it long ago. But since Mom never mentioned it, he had pretended not to know. Yes, that's right. Shun Shui raised her eyes to look at the two children and nodded affirmatively. He is your father. Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi smiled at Jiyu Zua, calling out in clear, sweet voices, Daddy tilde, millimeter. Jiyu Zua responded cheerfully, standing up and walking over to the children. He crouched down to meet their eye level and said, Daddy will take you back to the Jiyu family to play for a while. Okay. Shun Ruoshi nodded vigorously. Shun Ruochen also nodded, his eyes filled with a hint of anticipation. Shun Shui was right last night. Upon learning that Jiyu Zua was their biological father, Chen Chen and 1111 were indeed very happy, their eyes crinkling with smiles, and they kept clinging to Jiyu Zua. After bidding farewell to old Master Yu, Jiyu Zua drove the mother and children to the Jiyu family home. Chapter 48, The Children's First Visit to the Jiyu Family Home. The black Rolls-Royce cruised down the street, with the two little ones in the back seat looking quite excited, chattering non-stop to Jiyu Zua, Daddy, Daddy. Look at that crane, it's so tall, Daddy. A water truck just drove by. The two little ones spoke with childish innocence, yet Jiyu Zua responded with great patience. Shun Shui couldn't help but sigh inwardly. From what she had observed so far, Jiyu Zua was undoubtedly a good father. What she couldn't have herself, she hoped Chen Chen and 1111 would be able to have. Half an hour later, the car pulled into the Jiyu family's residence, less like a villa and more accurately described as an estate. Shun Shui turned her head to glance out the car window as the vehicle passed through the gates and continued down a 5 to 6 meter wide asphalt road. After driving forward for several more minutes, a massive artistic fountain pool came into view. Wow, Daddy, This fountain is so beautiful. Shun Ruoshi started her chatterbox mode again. It's even prettier than the Montjuic fountain. Jiyu Ziue took the opportunity to ask, then how about Shishi living here from now on? Okay. He's so sneaky. This is clearly a leading question. Shun Shuwei was afraid Shishi would blurt out an agreement, so she quickly changed the subject. Shishi, sit still and stop fidgeting. Shun Ruoshi muttered under her breath, I wasn't moving around at all. After passing the fountain pool, the car stopped outside the main entrance of the Jiyu family's residence. Hearing the sound of the car, the three elders of the Jiyu family came out and peered inside through the car window. The rear door opened, and Jiyu Ziue carried the two children out of the car. As soon as Shun Ruoshi's feet touched the ground, she eagerly ran over to Jiyu Yuanlin and Li Peiji, asking curiously, Grandpa, Grandma, what are you doing here? Li Peiji looked at Shun Ruoshi with loving eyes and replied, This is your grandparents' home. Shun Ruoshi still wore a puzzled expression, not quite grasping what this meant. Shun Shuwei, holding Shun Ruochen's hand, walked over. She first greeted the elders of the Jiyu family, then said to the two children, Chen Chen, 1111, this is your great-grandfather, this is your grandfather, and grandmother, hello, great-grandfather, hello, grandfather, hello, grandmother. Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi greeted each elder in turn. Shun Ruoshi now realized that this was the Jiyu family, and the grandmother she had met before was actually her own grandmother. Grandma Tilda. Shun Ruoshi called out again, stepping forward to take Li Peiji's hand. Good, my dear granddaughter. Come, let's go inside. Grandma has prepared lots of delicious food for you. Her dear granddaughter taking the initiative to hold her hand moved Li Peiji deeply, almost bringing her to tears. Shun Shuwei gazed at the Jiyu family villa before her. Everything's so familiar. The furnishings remained as they were before, exquisite and luxurious. For years later, she returned to the Jiyu family once more. This time with two children by her side, heirs to the Jiyu family bloodline. Because of the children, Shun Shuwei hadn't changed her way of addressing them. She still called Mr. and Mrs. Jiyu mom and dad, and referred to the elder Mr. Jiyu as grandpa. The entire Jiyu family couldn't take their eyes off the two adorable, well-behaved children. It was evident that the Jiyu family elders were very fond of Chen Chen and 1111. After the two little ones had some snacks, Li Peiji suggested taking Shun Shuwei and the children upstairs to have a look. Shun Shuwei nodded in agreement and followed them upstairs. Li Peiji led the way, showing the mother and her two children the things she had carefully prepared, one by one, two spacious children's bedrooms. The girls' room features a dreamy sweet pink and white palette, while the boys' room adopts a blue and white color scheme. The wardrobes in the rooms are filled with perfectly sized clothes, all personally selected by Li Peiji during shopping trips. In addition to the children's bedrooms, dedicated spaces were specially prepared for both kids, including a study room, a music room, and a dance practice room. What shocked Shun Shuwei most was discovering play areas arranged both indoors and outdoors. Mommy, I really like it here. Hearing Shun Ruoshi's words, Shun Shuwei immediately felt a headache coming on. What should she do? It seemed they might have to visit the Jiyu family frequently from now on. Li Peiji beamed with joy. 1111, if you like it here, you can stay. This is your home too. Shun Shuwei, truly mother and son. Their tactics are quite similar, fortunately. Shun Ruoshi's attention was drawn to the toys and she didn't notice what Li Peiji said at all. They played at the Jiyu family's house until the afternoon. The elders of the Jiyu family were reluctant to let the two children leave, so they had them take a nap in the children's room and waited until after dinner to go home. The elders of the Jiyu family had always been very kind to her, so Shun Shuwei was happy to cooperate and let the children stay at the Jiyu family's house a little longer. After dinner, Jiyu Ziue personally escorted the mother and her two children back to the Yu family. The trunk was packed with many things, all prepared by the Jiyu family elders for Shun Shuwei and the children. When they left the Jiyu family, Shun Shuwei glanced in the rearview mirror and seemed to see Li Peiji secretly wiping away tears, perhaps reluctant to part with the two little ones. Shun Shui felt a touch of emotion in her heart and decided to bring Chen Chen and 1111 back to visit the Jiyu family elders more often in the future. Chapter 49, A Sudden Kiss. 3 days later, at the Carlton International Grand Hotel, an Audi drove into the underground parking lot and parked in a spot near the elevator lobby. Shun Shui, sitting in the driver's seat, bent down to change into high heels, pushed the door open to get out, and walked toward the elevator carrying a briefcase filled with documents. As she passed through the hotel lobby, Shun Shui glanced around. The banquet hall was bustling with noise and excitement. As if a business dinner was being held, Shun Shui withdrew her gaze and continued walking toward the hotel restaurant. As soon as she entered the restaurant, Qiao Yang stepped out of a private room and walked toward her, saying, "President Shun, over here." Qiao Yang had to go out in the afternoon, while Shun Shui had come directly from the company, so they arrived at the restaurant one after the other. Shun Shui asked, "Has the client not arrived yet?" "Not there yet." Qiao Yang pushed open the private room door and stepped aside to let Shun Shui enter first. The two settled on the sofa in the private room, sipped some black tea. And soon the clients arrived one after another. President Chen, President Wang, President Li. "How are you? No traffic jams on the way." "Ah." President Shun, Vice President Qiao, "Long time no see." Shun Shui and Qiao Yang stood up and exchanged pleasantries with a few clients. President Shun, "Sorry to keep you and Vice President Qiao waiting." "No problem, we just arrived ourselves." As they spoke, the group sat down around the round table. The waiter quickly brought the dishes and tea. And since none of the clients drank alcohol, no alcoholic beverages were prepared on the table. During the meal, everyone chatted and laughed, and several business deals were successfully negotiated in a relaxed and pleasant atmosphere. By nearly 9 o'clock, the enjoyable gathering finally came to an end. While Shun Shui was entertaining clients, Jiyu Ziyue was also attending a business dinner at the same hotel. After drinking a few glasses of wine, he began to feel a bit dizzy, his consciousness gradually blurring, and an inexplicable warmth spreading through his body. At that moment, a pair of slender hands steadied him, gently saying, "Brother Ziyue, you're drunk, let me help you rest for a while." It was the voice of Lin Yunyu. "No need to help me, I can walk by myself." Jiyu Ziyue pushed Lin Yunyue's hand away and walked toward the men's restroom, after splashing cold water on his face. Jiyu Ziyue stepped out of the restroom and suddenly felt the world spinning around him. "Brother Ziyue, are you feeling better?" Lin Yunyu stood beside him, saying with concern, "Let me help you rest for a while." "Okay." Jiyu Ziyue's face was pale, and he felt extremely uncomfortable, only able to nod weakly. In a place he couldn't see, Lin Yunyu revealed a triumphant smile as she helped Jiyu Ziyue into the elevator. After exiting the elevator, the two entered a room that had been prepared in advance. Lin Yunyu helped Jiyu Ziyue to the sofa and had him lie down on it. Jiyu Ziyue felt increasingly hot. Unconsciously, he raised his hand, loosened his tie, and roughly tore off 2 buttons from his shirt. Despite this, it still didn't help. "Brother Ziyue, let me help you." "Okay." Lin Yunyue's slender fingers wandered over Jiyu Ziyue's Adam's apple, gradually sliding down to his collarbone, feeling the coolness of her fingertips. Jiyu Ziyue suddenly regained his senses and pushed Lin Yunyu away. Jiyu Ziyue immediately soberly realized that, given his alcohol tolerance, it was impossible for him to get drunk after just a few drinks. It must be Lin Yunyu who did something. "Lin Yunyu, are you fucking crazy?" Jiyu Ziyue shouted at Lin Yunyu. Lin Yunyue's eyes were misted with tears, her entire demeanor pitifully pleading, her expression the very picture of innocence. She clung to Jiyu Ziyue's arm with both hands, gently swaying it. "Brother Ziyue." Now was the best opportunity for Lin Yunyu to win over Jiyu Ziyue. That thing, they say even the most strong-willed couldn't resist. Once forced into action, her marriage to Jiyu Ziyue would be just around the corner. Percent. Shun Shui bore 2 children for Jiyu Ziyue. But that was nothing significant. She could also bear children for Jiyu Ziyue. As many as he wanted, she would give him. Yet once again, Jiyu Ziyue pushed Lin Yunyu away, and this time, he used such force that she stumbled backward, her knees hitting the coffee table, the pain sending her crashing to the ground. Ji quickly walked to the door, pulled it open, and stepped out. Waves of dizziness washed over him, and his consciousness once again sank into a fog. No. He mustn't get involved with Lin Yunyu. To regain his clarity, Ji braced himself against the wall with one hand while clenching the other into a fist, striking the wall forcefully several times. A sharp pain from the knuckles on the back of his hand brought Ji a moment of clarity. He stepped into the elevator and pressed P1 directly, heading to the underground parking lot. Shun Shuwei had just settled into her car, ready to drive home, when she glanced up and saw a familiar figure. She had never seen Ji in such a disheveled state before. Hurriedly getting out of the car, she approached him, supporting his arm as she asked, "Ziyue, what happened? How did your hand get so badly injured? This is a 5-star hotel with excellent security. Who would dare to harm Ji here?" Shuwei. Ji looked at Shun Shuwei in disbelief, thinking it might be a hallucination, his longing to see her playing tricks on him. "It's really me. Are you drunk? Can't you even recognize me?" Sensing the faint scent of alcohol on Ji Shun Shuwei assumed he had simply had too much to drink. Ji current state indeed resembled that of being drunk. His gaze was hazy, and his steps were unsteady. "Shuwei, take me to the hospital." "All right, no problem. Let me help you into the car first." Shun Shuwei noticed the injury on the back of his hand, which definitely needed treatment. She draped his arm over her shoulder, supported his waist, and guided him toward the car. The delicate fragrance of roses and lilies of the valley on her wafted into Ji nostrils, subtly entwining around his heart. The impulse he had forcefully suppressed earlier surged up once again. The woman he loved was right beside him now, her arms supporting his waist. Ji clenched his lower lip tightly, feeling his rationality on the verge of collapse. The two walked up to the car, and Shun Shuwei looked up at him. Noticing how he was biting his lip, clearly in great discomfort, she asked softly with concern, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" Ji rationality completely collapsed. He grasped her waist with both hands, lifted her up, and sat her on the car's hood. The next moment, he leaned down and kissed her moist, glossy red lips. The sudden kiss left Shun Shuwei momentarily stunned. When she came to her senses, she glared at Ji pushing against his arms and shoulders, but failed to shove him away. Shun Shuwei recalled that night from years ago. Back then, she and Ji were married. She had thought that after their intimate encounter, their relationship would grow even closer, so she didn't push him away. But who would have thought that Ji would become increasingly distant from her ever since? Recalling past events, Shun Shuwei turned her head away, the corners of her eyes slightly red, and said in a low voice, "Ji what do you think you're doing? Do you think drinking gives you the right to act recklessly?" Seeing the moisture in Shun Shuwei's eyes, Ji panicked instantly. "I'm sorry, Shuwei. I really lost control just now." "Ha. All men who make mistakes after drinking use this excuse." Shun Shuwei pushed Ji hand away, opened the car door, and got straight into the car. Chapter 50. Taking care of him in the hospital. Seeing Ji still standing motionless, Shun Shuwei rolled down the car window and snapped impatiently, "What are you staring at? Either get in or move aside. Don't block the way." Only then did Ji approach, open the car door, and settle into the passenger seat. "Shuwei, is there any water in the car?" he asked hoarsely. "There is. I put it in the trunk." Shun Shuwei got out of the car, walked around to the back, opened the trunk to grab 2 bottles of water, and handed them to Ji "Thank you." Ji took the mineral water, unscrewed the cap, and took a big gulp before pouring some onto his suit jacket. He was burning up all over, his mouth and throat parched, under Shun Shuwei's astonished gaze. Ji directly draped the jacket over himself to cool down. Only then did Shun Shuwei notice that his complexion seemed off, with an unusual flush. "Are you running a fever? Should I take you back to the Ji family or to the hospital?" The Ji family has professional in-house doctors capable of handling wound dressing and treating colds and fevers with no issues whatsoever. "To the hospital." Upon hearing Ji response, Shun Shuwei gripped the steering wheel with both hands and drove the car out of the underground parking lot, quietly driving through 2 streets, While waiting at a traffic light, Shun Shuei couldn't help but speak up, saying to Jiu Ziue, "Covering yourself with a wet coat will only make your condition worse. I'm not sick. I just ate something wrong," Jiu Ziue said softly. "Shuei, Lin Yunyu secretly plotted against me. She slipped something bad into my wine glass and then helped me to the guest room. Oh my." Although Jiu Ziue spoke vaguely, Shun Shuei connected his uncontrollable behavior and feverish state, and she immediately understood. She couldn't quite believe it. This sounded like something that would only happen in a TV drama. In real life, would someone actually resort to such extreme behavior? This is simply lawless. Sorry. Jiu Ziue turned his head to look at Shun Shuei. "I really didn't mean to do that just now." Shun Shuei couldn't help but sigh. "Under these circumstances, I believe you didn't do it on purpose. Close your eyes and rest for a while. It'll probably take about 10 more minutes to get to the hospital." Okay. Jiu Ziue was currently enduring a torturous mix of sensations. The damp coat on his body provided some cooling relief, yet the scorching heat burning within him was almost unbearable. After parking at the hospital, Shun Shuei hesitated to assist Jiu Ziue, fearing he might lose control again. Shun Shuei had Jiu Ziue wait in the car while she went into the emergency room, borrowed a wheelchair from the nurse's station, and then returned to the parking lot to fetch him. Jiu Ziue's face grew increasingly red, so much so that it seemed almost ready to drip blood. Shun Shuei helped him into the wheelchair and pushed him through the hospital entrance. The nurse immediately noticed something was wrong with Jiu Ziue and quickly instructed Shun Shuei to wheel him into the examination room for the doctor to attend to. "Doctor, he said it was something he ate by mistake. Could you please take a look at him?" Seeing Jiu Ziue seemingly unconscious, Shun Shuei was now very worried about him. The doctor asked, "What did you eat by mistake? Do you know?" Shun Shuei shook her head helplessly. "I don't know, at this moment." The doctor called 2 people in to move Jiu Ziue onto the hospital bed. After examining him and observing Jiu Ziue's physical reactions, the doctor quickly determined what he had ingested. "Take him for gastric lavage, then administer in 4, the doctor said, handing the prescription to Shun Shuei. "He'll need to stay overnight for observation. If everything is fine, he can leave tomorrow morning." The emergency room nurses wheeled Jiu Ziue into the gastric lavage room. Shun Shuei stood at the door for a while before sitting down on the stainless steel bench in the hallway. The hospital's air conditioning was very cool, and the chair I sat on was ice cold as well. Shun Shuei couldn't help but shiver at the thought of Lin Yunyu's actions. Lin Yunyu loved Jiu Ziue deeply, to the point of near obsession. There's nothing wrong with loving someone, but what Lin Yunyu did was simply too extreme, too insane. Shun Shuei took out her phone from her bag and called the butler. Uncle Yao, how are Chen Chen and 1111, were they well behaved going to sleep tonight?" Shun Shuei first checked on the 2 children. "Miss, according to Aunt Zhong, the children fell asleep soon after lying down. You don't need to worry." "That's good," Shun Shuei asked. "Has grandfather gone to bed now?" "Yes, he has already gone back to his room to rest. Uncle Yao, a friend of mine is sick, and I need to stay at the hospital to take care of him tonight. If I haven't returned by the time Grandpa wakes up tomorrow morning, please let him know so he won't worry." "Sure, no problem," Shun Shuei added. "Also, starting tomorrow, arrange for a few bodyguards to stay close to the children when they're at school. Have the bodyguards stationed nearby, just in case." The butler asked nervously, "Miss, is someone targeting the Yu family?" "Hard to say, but it's better to be safe than sorry." Shun Shuei was only worried that Lin Yunyu might do something even more outrageous. What if she targeted the children? "Yes, I'll arrange it tomorrow. Miss, is there anything else you need?" "That's all, Uncle Yao. You should rest early too." "All right, miss." Hearing Shun Shuei's concern, Uncle Yao seemed quite pleased, responding cheerfully. The waiting time was a bit dull, so Shun Shuei sat and scrolled through her phone to pass the time. After an hour, her phone was almost out of battery, and Shun Shuei, staring at the screen, began to feel drowsy. "I simply put my phone back in my bag and closed my eyes to rest." She nodded off like a pecking chick, her head drooping with drowsiness. Suddenly, she heard a click, as if the sound of a door lock being turned. Shun Shuei jolted upright. Straightening her back and looking toward the source of the sound, the door to the gastric lavage room opened from the inside, and the nurse wheeled Ji Yuziua out, pushing him toward the ward. While going through the formalities, Shun Shuwei had already arranged for a VIP ward. The VIP ward, which is a private single room, is quieter and allows Ji Yuziua to rest properly. Additionally, the VIP ward has a long sofa where Shun Shuwei can take a short nap after Ji Yuziua finishes his 4-drip. By the time the 4-drip was finished, it was almost 3 a.m. Shun Shuwei yawned repeatedly, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. She was utterly exhausted. Shun Shuwei lay on the sofa. Despite her height of 1.7 meters, the sofa wasn't long enough, forcing her to sleep with her legs curled up. After about 3 hours of sleep, Shun Shuwei was awakened again by the sound of nurses making their rounds. Glancing at the time and seeing it was almost 7 o'clock, Shun Shuwei decided against going back to sleep. She walked out of the ward and bought a cup of coffee from the vending machine in the hallway. Holding a cup of coffee, she walked into the hospital room and stood by the window, gazing outside as the morning sun gradually illuminated the sky. Ji Yuziua woke up, slowly opening his eyes before turning his head to look at Shun Shuwei standing in the morning light. She wore a white lace dress, with the gentle breeze caressing her long hair. A cascade of brown waves softly gilded by the morning sun, breathtakingly beautiful. This scene before him seemed like something Ji Yuziua had once seen in a dream. In the dream, she gradually drifted away, until she disappeared from sight. Chapter 51. The older, the wiser, Shun Shuwei seemed to sense something and turned to look at Ji Yuziua. "You're finally awake." "Yes, thank you for bringing me to the hospital last night and staying here to take care of me. You've worked hard." Ji Yuziua's eyes were clear and bright, gazing directly at her. "It's good that you're okay." Shun Shuwei walked to the bedside, unscrewed the water bottle, and handed it to him. "Can you sit up by yourself? If not, I can raise the hospital bed for you." "I can do it myself." Ji Yuziua was feeling much better now. Propping himself up with one hand, he took the water bottle Shun Shuwei handed to him with the other. Ji Yuziua tilted his head back and drank most of the water, then casually placed the bottle on the bedside table. After a while, the doctor came in to examine Ji Yuziua. During this time, Shun Shuwei went out and bought 2 breakfast meals. Carrying the breakfast back to the ward, the doctor had just finished the examination. He said to Ji Yuziua, "You're fine now and can be discharged to go home. Keep your diet light for the next couple of days and drink more warm water." "All right, thank you, doctor." Ji Yuziua nodded in gratitude. Shun Shuwei placed 2 breakfasts on the table. First opening the lid of the porridge and pushing it in front of Ji Yuziua, she said softly, "You had your stomach pumped last night. I packed you yam and lean meat porridge. Yam is good for the stomach." "Thank you." Touched by Shun Shuwei's thoughtfulness, Ji Yuziua felt warmth melting in his heart as he lowered his gaze to the bowl of porridge. He couldn't help but sigh again, realizing how blind he had truly been before. Shun Shuwei had always been a considerate person, yet he had remained oblivious to her thoughtfulness, taking her efforts for granted. After finishing breakfast, Ji Yuziua took the initiative to clean up, packing the takeout containers and disposing of them in the designated waste sorting area before wiping the table clean with a tissue. Once everything was done, the two walked side by side out of the hospital gates. "Ziua, I need to go home to change clothes, then hurry back to the office. I won't be able to see you off." "It's fine. I'll take a taxi myself." Shun Shuwei walked to the parking lot, while Ji Yuziua hailed a taxi at the hospital entrance to first return to his residence in the city to change clothes. Ji Yuziua usually stayed overnight at his city residence when work kept him busy, so last night he didn't return to the Jiyu family's old house, and the elders of the Jiyu family didn't notice anything amiss. Ji Yuziua didn't want to worry the elders and also reminded Shun Shuwei not to mention this matter to the Jiyu family elders. Back in the CEO's office at Junphone Group, Ji Yuziua's expression was cold and stern as he briefed Fang Yu about what had happened the previous night. "President Ji Yu, I should have gone with you last night." Fang Yu felt somewhat guilty. If he had stayed by Ji Yuziua's side, Lin Yunyu wouldn't have been able to take Ji Yuziua away. In the past, Fang Yu would always accompany Ji Yuziua to business dinners. However, he didn't go yesterday because he wasn't feeling well. It's none of your business. Ji Yuziue shook his head and continued, go check the hotel surveillance footage to see if there's any recording of Lin Yunyu putting something in the wine glass. Fang Yu responded, got it. Also, leak some of the dirty deeds we've uncovered to the relevant authorities. Otherwise, the Lin family is getting too complacent right now. Ji Yuziue's eyes turned cold. The Lin family's days of downfall were not far off. Yeah, Lin Yunyu is completely lawless, relying on her family's power, Fang Yu said with disdain. That woman really has no bottom line. This time it was my carelessness. Ji Yuziue rubbed his tense forehead and said to Fang Yu, you go ahead with your work first. Let me know when there's any result. Alright, then I'll get back to work. Fang Yu turned and walked out of the office. Shun Shuwei returned to the Yu family home. Old Master Yu had already gone to the company, and the two little ones had been sent to kindergarten for school. She didn't stay home for long. After returning to her room to wash up and change clothes, she drove to the company, stepping through the company doors. It was exactly 9 o'clock. Good morning, Jiang Lu. Good morning, President Shun. Jiang Lu replied with a smile. Shun Shuwei greeted Jiang Lu with a nod before pushing open the door and stepping into her office. She had just turned on her computer when the landline on her desk suddenly rang. Shun Shuwei picked up the phone. Hello, this is Shun Shuwei speaking. Shuwei, come to my office for a moment. Old Man Yu's voice came through the phone. President Yu, is this about business or personal matters? Shun Shuwei was quite busy at the moment, with a pile of work waiting for her. If it was a personal matter, it would have to wait until she got home. Old Man Yu replied impatiently. Business? Alright, I'm coming right up. After hanging up the phone, Shun Shuwei stepped out of the office and took the elevator up to the 28th floor. President Shun. Several secretaries from the Executive Secretary office promptly stood up to greet her. Shun Shuwei nodded lightly. I can go in by myself. You all continue with your work, walking to the door of the President's office. Shun Shuwei raised her hand and knocked. Old Man Yu's voice quickly came from inside. Come in. Shun Shuwei turned the doorknob and pushed the door open to enter. President Yu. Shun Shuwei smiled warmly as she looked at Old Man Yu. There are no outsiders here. No need to call me President. I'm used to it. Let's still call you President Yu at the company. Shun Shuwei pulled out a chair and sat across from Old Man Yu. President Yu, what did you want to see me about? When it came to work matters, Old Man Yu immediately became serious. I've reviewed the documents you sent over. I wanted to ask, what are your plans? Have you thought through the detailed execution strategy? President Yu, regarding our current jewelry brand. After that, Shun Shuwei laid out all of her plans. Before Shun Shuwei took over, the overall performance of Hechi Jewelry wasn't particularly good, barely managing to break even. Several board members had repeatedly proposed cutting the brand, as in their eyes, unprofitable projects simply weren't worth keeping. But Old Man Yu couldn't bear to part with it. This jewelry brand was created for Yu Wenjun. Yu Wenjun had already left this world, and Old Man Yu hoped that her design works could remain on display in the counters of Heir Jewelry after Shun Shuwei officially took over, compared to the same period last year. Heir Jewelry's performance had multiplied several times over. Old Man Yu listened to Shun Shuwei's execution plan and nodded repeatedly. His granddaughter was truly outstanding, adept at strategizing in the workplace with strong professional capabilities. Old Man Yu felt completely at ease in trusting the company to Shun Shuwei and Shun Rui in the future. After Shun Shuwei finished his report, Old Man Yu nodded and said, Good, good, good. Let's proceed according to your plan. Understood. President Yu. Shun Shuwei stood up. I'll get back to work then. Were you with Ji Yuziue last night? Old Man Yu's question came quite suddenly. Shun Shuwei blinked her eyes and said, Huh, why would you think that? Nothing. Just asking casually. Old Man Yu smiled. Alright, you go ahead with your work. We'll talk about other things when we get home tonight. Only after Shun Shuwei left the office did Old Man Yu reveal a meaningful smile on his face. If she hadn't been with Ji Yuziue last night, Shun Shuwei's answer would have been no, or that's not the case. But Shun Shuwei didn't answer directly, instead avoiding the question and countering with one of his own. From this, it seems Shun Shui was indeed with Jiu Ziua last night. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. Shun Shui thought he had left no flaws, unaware that old Master Yu had already seen through him. Chapter 52. Wanting Dad to come along. In the evening, when Shun Shui returned home from work, Grandpa Yu didn't press further about who she had been with the previous night. Shun Shui let out a sigh of relief and took the two little ones upstairs to the piano room to practice. After finishing their piano practice, Shun Ruoshi suddenly asked Shun Shui, "Mom, do you know what day it is in 2 days?" Shun Shui smiled gently, pinched Shun Ruoshi's nose tip, and said, "Still trying to test me? Children's Day is in 2 days. Go on, is there something you want as a gift?" "It's not a gift. The teacher said the kindergarten is organizing an activity." "Oh. What kind of activity? Tell me about it." Shun Ruoshi then explained the activity, but her explanation was unclear. What selling things? What unit? Shun Shui clearly didn't understand. What exactly needs to be done? Shun Ruochan couldn't stand it anymore, closed the book, came over and said, "Mom, the activity the teacher mentioned is about having students set up stalls in a designated area with their families to sell things. The money earned from selling will be donated to charity." "Oh, I see. That sounds like a very meaningful activity then. Through real buying and selling transactions, children can develop their communication skills, calculation abilities, organizational skills, and adaptability. Donating the money earned to charity also nurtures kindness in children." Shun Shui asked softly, "What would you like to sell?" Shun Ruochan pursed his lips, looking reluctant. The teacher asked everyone to sell their handmade items. Only things made by hand have meaning. Shun Shui nodded. No wonder Shun Ruochan had that expression. He disliked and was least skilled at doing handicrafts. For Shun Ruochan, having time to do such boring things was worse than reading a book. Reading was much more interesting. "Mom, what kind of handicrafts can we make?" Shun Ruoshi, on the other hand, was very interested, but she didn't know what small handmade items they could sell. Shun Shui thought for a good while before telling Shun Ruoshi. Things like sachets, paper cutting, bracelets, embroidery, oh, and also painting. Right after finishing, she added, "But we might not have enough time for the drawing part." Shun Ruochan lost even more interest upon hearing this. He sat back on the sofa, adopting an indifferent attitude, and returned to reading his book. "Mommy, I think embroidery and bracelet making sound great. Can we do those too?" Shun Ruoshi asked in her sweet, childish voice. "Sweetheart, embroidery is very time-consuming. And it's not something you can learn in just a day or two." Shun Shui smiled and suggested, "How about we switch to paper cutting instead? Would that work?" Paper cutting would work too." Shun Ruoshi nodded. Just as the mother and daughter finished discussing the Children's Day activities, a few knocks sounded at the door. "Young mistress, dinner is ready. Please come downstairs to dine." The servant's voice came from outside the door. "Got it, we're coming downstairs now." Shun Shui first took the two little ones to wash their hands before heading downstairs to the dining room. Grandfather, great-grandpa, Shun Shui, and the children took their seats respectively, both greeting Grandpa Yu. It seems you finished practicing the piano a while ago. What were you doing upstairs?" Grandpa Yu had noticed the piano music stopped some time ago, but hadn't seen the mother and children come downstairs. Shun Shui picked up the water glass on the table, took a sip, and replied, "The children were telling me about the Children's Day activities." "Oh, what kind of activities is their kindergarten planning?" Shun Shui explained calmly. "It's just a small market set up for us parents to accompany the kids in selling things. The proceeds will be donated to charity in the children's names." Old Master Yu nodded slightly. "This is a good activity. It allows the children to try selling things themselves and also do good deeds." "Mom, will Dad come with us then?" Shun Ruoshi suddenly asked this question, catching Shun Shui off guard and nearly causing her to choke on her food. Cough, cough. Shun Shui coughed several times, swallowed the food, and then took a few sips of water. "Mom, are you okay?" Shun Ruochan, sitting beside her, gently patted her back to help her catch her breath. "Sweetie, Mom's fine." After recovering, Shun Shui looked at Shun Ruoshi and said softly, 11:11, "Mom will go with you. Dad might be busy." Shun Ruoshi pouted. Is he busy even on weekends? You haven't asked him yet. How do you know he's busy? Seeing Shun Ruoshi so insistent, Shun Shui had no choice but to say to her, then Mom will call and ask later. Only then did Shun Ruoshi nod in satisfaction, continuing to gnaw on the large chicken wing in her hand, her face smeared with grease. Originally, Shun Shui was just brushing it off and had no intention of actually calling Jiyu Zeue, a little past 8 in the evening. After the children had bathed and were lying in bed, Shun Shui sat by the bedside, ready to tell them a bedtime story. At this moment, Shun Ruoshi hugged Shun Shui's arm and said, Mom, did you forget to call Dad? Shun Shui's lips twitched slightly as she patted her little head. I'll call Dad after you fall asleep. How about I tell you a story first? Can you call him now, please? Shun Ruoshi blinked her big eyes, her long lashes fluttering. I miss Dad, Shun Shui. Her daughter seemed to know exactly how adorable she was. Every time she looked at someone with those eyes, it was hard to refuse. Besides, it's not an unreasonable request. Shun Shui had no choice but to pick up her phone and dial Jiyu Zeu's number. Every time she called Jiyu Zeu, he answered quickly. The call was picked up in less than 3 seconds. Shui, Jiyu Zeu's voice remained deep and magnetic. As Shun Shui listened, her heart inexplicably skipped a beat, receiving no response. Jiyu Zeu called again. Shui. Shun Shui snapped out of her daze and quickly replied, I'm here. Shun Ruoshi leaned against Shun Shui and cheerfully called out, Daddy Tilda. Oh, 1111 is here too. Where's Chen Chen? Shun Ruochen leaned over and said into the phone, Dad, I'm here too. Are you all still here? It's so late, haven't you gone to bed yet? Not yet. 1111 wants to ask if you're free this weekend. Jiyu Zeu immediately responded, Of course I'm free. Shun Shui spoke slowly. Recounting the kindergarten's Children's Day event to Jiyu Zeu said, Do you need me to do anything? I can also help prepare things. No need, we'll have everything ready. You can just come over on the weekend. Alright, I'll come pick you up then. It was getting late. So after finishing their business, Jiyu Zeu bid the children good night. After finishing the phone call, Shun Shui opened the picture book and told the children a story to lull them to sleep. The children slept soundly, but Shun Shui found herself a little restless that night, tossing and turning with thoughts swirling in her mind. Originally, after the divorce, she had intended to completely sever ties with Jiyu Zeu. But now, because of the children, she was growing closer to Jiyu Zeu once again. Chapter 53, A Heartwarming Parent-Child Activity, Part 1, June 1st, a little past 7 in the morning. When Jiyu Zeu arrived at the Yu family's home, the entire household was still having breakfast in the dining room. Seeing Jiyu Zeu arrive so early, old Master Yu asked with concern, Zeu, have you had breakfast yet? If not, please sit down and join us. Dad, Mom's shrimp dumplings are really delicious. Originally, Jiyu Zeu was about to say he had already eaten, but upon hearing Shun Ruoshi's words, he quickly changed his response. I haven't had breakfast yet. Then I'm truly in for a treat, getting to enjoy the shrimp dumplings made by Shui herself. Have a seat and join us, Shun Shui said with a smile. The kids love my shrimp dumplings, so I made extra. Don't worry, there's plenty to go around. The servant brought bowls and chopsticks. Jiyu Zeu tasted a shrimp dumpling and praised. The shrimp inside is very fresh, with a natural sweet and savory flavor. It's truly delicious. When the two were still married, Shun Shui usually bought ready-made breakfast at the entrance of the neighborhood or ate what Aunt Zhong cooked. This was also Jiyu Zeu's first time tasting the shrimp dumplings she had made. 1111 loves shrimp dumplings the most, Shun Ruoshi said, popping another shrimp dumpling into her mouth. Shun Ruochen teased, You're such a little glutton. Is there anything you don't like to eat? Shun Ruoshi immediately retorted, Yes, there is. I don't like to eat cilantro. Jiyu Zeu smiled and said, Then 1111 is just like Dad. Daddy doesn't like cilantro either. Daddy doesn't like the taste of cilantro. Shun Ruoshi tilted her upper body toward Jiyu Zeu, putting on an expression that said, Dad and I are the best in the world. Shui Shun helplessly rubbed her forehead and reminded, 1111, sit properly right now, okay? Ruoshi Shun replied, Ziyue Jiyu reached out to help her sit upright and added, "What you were doing just now was very dangerous. If you fell, it would hurt a lot. 1111 will be more careful from now on." After breakfast, Ziyue Jiyu first loaded everything into the trunk. Then the family of 4 got into the car and headed to the fair where the event was being held. When we arrived at the market, some other children and parents had already gotten there first. After getting out of the car, Shun Ruoshi spotted a few of her classmates and enthusiastically waved to greet them. Shun Shuei walked over with the 2 children, exchanging a few polite words with the other parents. Noticing that Jiyu Ziyue had already unloaded the items from the car, Shun Shuei said, "Let's go set up our stall first. We can chat more later when we have time. We haven't set things up yet either. Let's chat later." The parents also lowered their heads and got busy. They were all well-off people who had never set up a stall before, so things were a bit messy now. Jiyu Ziyue looked at the several large boxes in front of him, equally at a loss. Shun Shuei said it was fine as long as he showed up, so Jiyu Ziyue didn't even know what he was going to sell. Chen 1111, you need to help set up the stall too. No running around, okay? As the market was gradually getting busier, Shun Shuei reminded them with concern. Shun Ruochen nodded obediently. "Okay, Mom. Let's set up quickly then." These things were basically all made by Shun Shuei and Shun Ruoshi with their own hands. It's not that Shun Ruochen was lazy, he just really couldn't handle handicrafts. A few that look rather ugly were made by Shun Ruochen. "Ziyue, go ahead and set up the table and tablecloth first." Since Jiyu Ziyue had arrived, Shun Shuei didn't stand on ceremony and immediately assigned him tasks. "Alright, I'll get to it right away." Jiyu Ziyue showed no reluctance on his face. Promptly setting up the table and spreading the linen tablecloth, Shun Shuei opened the storage box and, together with the 2 children, took out the items, arranging them neatly in rows. While the family was busy, Teacher Huang walked over and asked with a smile, "Chen 1111, what are you planning to sell at your stall?" Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi greeted the teacher simultaneously. Teacher Huang, our family is planning to sell paper cuttings and crystal bracelets." Shun Shuei paused her actions and looked up at Teacher Huang. Teacher Huang took a careful look, and her eyes instantly lit up. "Oh, the crystal bracelets you made are truly beautiful, and the price isn't high either. They'll definitely sell out. Let's hope so," Shun Shuei replied with a smile. Jiyu Ziyue was quietly arranging price tags, his refined and handsome appearance making it hard to ignore his presence. Teacher Huang asked, "Is this the uncle of Chen and 1111? Shun Ruoshi quickly shook her head and said, "Not uncle, he is our father." "Oh, I see. You guys carry on with your work. I'll take a walk around." Teacher Huang nodded gently and walked forward. After walking about 10 meters, Teacher Huang spotted a colleague. She approached and asked, pulling the other person aside, "Teacher Chen, do you remember if Ms. Shun mentioned before that the children's father had passed away?" Teacher Chen, unsure why Teacher Huang was asking this, nodded blankly. "Ah, I think so. Just now when I passed by their stall, I saw a handsome and refined man, and Shun Ruoshi said he was her father." Teacher Chen pondered for a moment and said, "Perhaps they had a fight and separated before. As people often say, the best ex should be as if they were dead." Teacher Huang nodded and said, "Now that you mention it, that does seem like a possibility." Teacher Chen glanced in Shun Shuei's direction and sighed. It would be nice if these 2 kids' parents could reconcile. Sometimes, when other children mention their fathers, 1111 seems a bit down. Teacher Huang agreed, saying, "Yes, of course, only with family harmony can children grow up happily." After chatting for a few moments, the 2 teachers went back to their work, checking if all the students and parents had arrived. This is an open market located near a large shopping mall, with a decent amount of foot traffic. This stall activity is mainly aimed at giving the children some practical experience, so Shun Shuei told Chen and 1111 that Mom and Dad would only watch, and they had to sell the items on their own. The siblings had already discussed it. The sister would handle communication and sales, while the brother would take care of packaging and collecting money. The items they were preparing to sell were all of excellent quality: the citrine, rose quartz, and green phantom used to make the bracelets were all high-quality crystals specially sourced by Shen Shuwei. The paper cuttings were also handmade by Shen Shuwei and her daughter. After cutting them, they were placed into frames, turning into exquisite and beautiful paper-cut artworks. Soon after the stalls were set up, customers began to come over one after another to inquire, "Little one, is this pink crystal bracelet made of real crystal?" "Big sister, this is genuine crystal." Shen Ruoshi held up the bracelet and examined it in the sunlight. "Look. This pink crystal is smooth and translucent. With your fair skin, it would look absolutely beautiful on you." Flattered by Shen Ruoshi's compliments, the young lady immediately took out her money and bought a pink crystal bracelet. Shen Ruochen took the money from the customer, calmly counted out some change, and handed it back. Seeing this, the young lady couldn't help but praise, "You two are really amazing. So young, yet you already know how to sell things and calculate change so quickly, compared to the other kids who were flustered and struggling." The performance of this brother-sister duo was truly outstanding. The younger sister was poised and charming, with a sweet way of speaking that could cheer people up. The older brother was calm and steady, also very clever and sensible. His change calculations were always spot on. "Thank you for your patronage, sister." Shen Ruoshi smiled with curved eyes as she handed the packed bag to the young lady. Just as they finished setting up the stall, they successfully made their first sale. Filling both siblings with joy, Shen Shuwei and Jiyu Ziwa exchanged a glance and smiled, their faces brighter than the sunshine. Chapter 54. A heartwarming parent-child activity, Part 2. A black Maybach pulled over to the side, and three well-dressed individuals stepped out, walking unhurriedly toward the market. These three were none other than the elders of the Jiyu family. Hearing that their beloved grandson was setting up a stall at the market to sell things, Jiyu Yuanlin and Li Peizhi said they wanted to come and take a look. The Jiyu family patriarch adjusted his reading glasses and said, "What's there to see? The market is too crowded and noisy." As a result, when Jiyu Yuanlin and Li Peizhi were about to leave, Old Master Jiyu calmly opened the car door and sat inside. "I have nothing to do at home, so I might as well join you to take a look." Li Peizhi suppressed a smile and instructed the driver to start the car. The three of them arrived at the market and indeed saw a very lively scene. Many people came upon hearing it was a charity sale, eager to see what items were available for purchase. When the elders of the Jiyu family arrived, the two children, Shen Ruochen and Shen Ruoshi, were busy, one promoting the sale, the other handling payments and packaging. Shen Shuwei and Jiyu Ziwa were sitting on folding chairs, leisurely sipping coffee and eating sandwiches. The coffee and sandwiches were bought at this market, from stalls set up by other children and their parents. Shen Shuwei was the first to spot the three elders. She nudged Jiyu Ziwa with her elbow, then quickly stood up with a smile and said, "Grandpa, Dad, Mom, what brings you here?" "I came to see you," said Li Peizhi, handing the items she was carrying to Shen Shuwei, "and I brought you something to drink as well." "Thanks, Mom, you've gone to so much trouble." Shen Shuwei reached out and took the bag, amidst their busyness. Shen Ruochen and Shen Ruoshi took a moment to greet the Jiyu family elders before turning back to attend to customers. Jiyu Ziwa borrowed a chair from a nearby stall, and Shen Shuwei invited the three elders to sit down. Shen Shuwei opened the bag Li Peizhi had brought and saw 4 drink cups with straws. She guessed they were probably juice. She took one of the cups and took a couple of sips. As expected, Li Peizhi had brought mango juice, and she had even added some sago pearls to it. The sago pearls had a tender, smooth, and chewy texture, which the children really enjoyed eating. Shen Shuwei took 2 cups over, knowing the children were busy. She directly placed the straws to their lips, letting them take a few sips. "Grandma, the mango juice you brought is really delicious." Shen Ruoshi turned to Li Peizhi and said. Shen Ruochen also added, "It's very tasty." "Thank you, Grandma." Li Peizhi smiled affectionately and replied, "I'm glad you like it." Seeing how much her grandchildren enjoyed the juice she had prepared, Li Peizhi felt an immense sense of satisfaction. Chen Chen and 1111 are really doing this properly. Old Master Jiyu nodded slightly. Jiyu Yuanlin said with evident pride, "Indeed, they're not even 4 years old yet." but they can already handle sales and cashier duties independently. That's quite impressive. After sitting for about half an hour, when the crowd thinned slightly, Shun Ruochen and Shun Ruoshi finally had time to talk with their elders. 11:11. Did you make these crystal bracelets? They're very pretty. Would you pick one for Grandma? It was made by me and Mom together. Let me see. Shun Ruoshi chose a yellow citrine and a green phantom quartz, placing them on Li Peiji's wrist. Although Li Peiji looks quite youthful, she's not actually young anymore, so pink doesn't suit her, so Shun Ruoshi chose these two. Grandma, do you think these two bracelets look nice? Shun Ruoshi asked earnestly, tilting her head up. They're both lovely, absolutely lovely. Li Peiji nodded repeatedly, though Li Peiji was accustomed to wearing agate and jade. These bracelets were strung by her own granddaughter. Even if they seemed ordinary at first glance, they held a special significance in her heart. So which one would you like, Grandma? Li Peiji smiled and said, naturally, I want both, not to be outdone. Old Master Jiyu and Jiyu Yuanlin each selected 2 papercut paintings. As she took out her wallet, Li Peiji asked Shun Ruochen, Chen, how much in total? Grandma will pay you, out of filial piety. Shun Ruochen dared not accept the money and quickly replied, you can just take them, no need to pay. Peiji Li shook her head and said, that won't do, the money from selling these items is meant for charity, we can't not charge you. Shun Ruochen looked somewhat troubled and glanced over at his parents. Jiyu Ziyue spoke up, Chen, just do as Grandma says. Shun Ruochen nodded and then said, Grandma, the total comes to 780 yuan, oh, so cheap. Li Peiji handed Shun Ruochen 800 yuan and said, keep the 20 yuan as change. Okay, thank you, Grandma. Shun Ruochen took the money with both hands and put it in the cash drawer. Before long, more people started arriving, so the 3 elders of the Jiyu family stood up to leave. Other families have one child setting up a stall with their parents. Here, the whole family, young and old, is guarding the stall, which looks a bit unusual. They gave the children juice and bought bracelets and paper-cut paintings made by the kids themselves. The elders felt content and happily headed home. Once the elders left, Shun Shuwei and Jiyu Ziyue comfortably sat back down, sipping coffee and juice, watching the 2 children bustling about. After another hour or so, they finally sold all the goods. Shun Shuwei yawned, handed them the juice cups, and said, you 2 sit down and rest for a while. Finish your juice. I'll go hand the money box to the teacher. Okay, the exhaustion was clearly audible in the voices of the 2 little ones. Shun Shuwei handed the money box to the kindergarten teachers, who counted the amount and then handed it over on the spot to the staff of the charity organization. You actually raised 15,000. That's really great. On behalf of the children in the mountainous areas, thank you for your kind donation. You're welcome. After handing over the cash box, Shun Shuwei walked back and saw Jiyu Ziyue had already packed up the folding table and tablecloth. Shun Shuwei asked the 2 little ones, Chen, 11:11, what would you like to eat for lunch? Shun Ruochen said, anything is fine. Shun Ruosh's eyes sparkled mischievously as she smiled and said, Mom, I want to eat hamburgers and fries. Grandpa, you doesn't allow the children to eat such fried junk food. It's been a long time since I last had it after returning to China. Shun Shuwei thought for a moment and agreed to her daughter's request, deciding to take them for burgers and fries first before driving home. Shortly after getting in the car following lunch, both children fell asleep during the ride. Chen and 11:11 are both exhausted. Shun Shuwei's voice was soft and warm. Yes, Jiyu Ziyue's deep, ink-like eyes shimmered with gentle radiance. Thank you for watching. This is a full-length novel. Friends who wish to see the continuation, please leave a comment below saying looking forward to more, or give the video a like. I'll update promptly based on your feedback. See you next time.